In the heart of the neon nightlife of the underground black market of Qing City, a hooded young man amidst the crowded streets covertly observes his surroundings before entering a shop. He informs the owner about his intention to sell a kidney and also a cornea, both amounting to 27,500 yuan. As the shop owner marks the items being purchased, he questioned the young man if he was serious. Because in the past 6 months, the same person had already sold a kidney, a spleen, a gallbladder, a part of the liver, 1/3 of his liver, and a part of his small and large intestines. If he was to sell another kidney, he won't last for more than 2 days. Lying on the stretcher, the guy calmly stated that it was fine. To save his seriously ill sister, any sacrifice was worth it. The shop owner gave up on trying to advise the poor guy and picked up a huge butcher's knife. He raised it high in the air, and without hesitation, went through the procedure, causing our poor fellow to scream in agony. After that, the supposed dead man walking headed back home with a stick to guide his way. His eyes were covered with bandages. He removed the bandage and checked the people around. He smiled when he found out no one was paying enough attention to him to follow him. He then used a regeneration effect to heal his wounds. He also pulled out a stack of cash he got from selling his cornea and kidney, silently declaring that the money, including the money he'd saved, should be enough for him to pay for the job transfer ritual. He was laughing while continuing walking as it turned out that all his reasons were just a lie, and he couldn't believe someone believed that horseshit he made up. His name is Ye Lin, and he's a transmigrator, a textbook orphan, and he doesn't have a sick sister. For context, the world he transmigrated into was overflowing with spiritual energy, full of demons and beasts everywhere. There are also countless dungeon realms. As an orphan, surviving in this new world was really tough, until he discovered his unique ability, his body regeneration. No matter how severe his injuries were, his body can fully recover within minutes, and even missing organs or limbs can regenerate. He used his regeneration to sell his own organs to save up 100,000 yuan just to pay for the expensive class change fee. Because only by going through the class transfer ritual and awakening his power can he become stronger. Only then can he stand firm in this perilous world and protect the ones he cares about, if he has any of course. And today was the big day for the class transfer ritual. When he arrived at the location, there was a group of 3 people who approached him, asking him why he had come. They knew him as a poor student, so they could not think of a reason why he could afford to attend the transfer ritual. Ye Lin held the lady's hand and spoke pitifully. "Miss Wang, in order to attend the transfer ritual, I had no choice but to take a class transfer loan." Of course, this was just a lie. Ye Lin didn't want anyone being suspicious of him. Miss Wang was shocked, and the guys with her were afraid that Ye Lin would be stuck working the rest of his life just to pay back the loan if he ended up with a useless profession. Luckily, Miss Wang permitted him to join and even wished for him to give all his best. She told him to go inside before the class transfer ritual would begin. After a few minutes, all the students who were participating in the class transfer gathered and were called one after another. The first participant was called Gao Diyu from class 5. Some students behind him gossiped that he's also not from a rich family. When Gao Diyu reached the stage, the principal instructed him to place his hand on the golden ball and relax his whole body. After just a minute, the principal declared that he obtained a support type class, which was an A-rank poultry breeder. The students then murmur that Gao Diyu will be a poultry breeder for the rest of his life. Don't get discouraged just because it's a support type class. There are only useless people, not useless classes, the principal stated calmly just to motivate Gao Diyu. The next student called was a lovely girl with an incredibly sexy figure, wearing a tight red dress and leather boots. She was Zhuge Nini, and everyone admired her so much. The moment she reached the stage, the principal then wished her luck. She thanked him and immediately placed her hand on the golden ball. A phoenix then appeared. The principal was surprised as it turned out Zhuge Nini got an SSS rank fire mage. Now, Arching City Academy can finally hold its head high, he added. The other students were also impressed, including Ye Lin. He knew that an SSS level fire mage could rival an entire army. After Zhuge Nini's class transfer, the principal then informed her he would discuss her training plan later with her since her SSS class was a big deal for their school. Zhuge Nini then went downstairs, and Ye Lin's name was called. While walking, Ye Lin heard everyone talking about him for getting a class change loan just for this ritual. Ye Lin slightly looked at Zhuge Nini and assured himself he was not going to be her or anyone's side character. Ye Lin positioned himself and put his hands on the golden ball. He has waited for this moment, wondering if he would still live a miserable life or defy fate. He was excited, waiting for his new class. Shockingly, a powerful azure dragon appeared. Ye Lin was shocked while staring at it, and a blue light wrapped his body, encasing him in a powerful glow. The students cannot believe that a student who got a class loan was lucky enough to get a powerful class. Zhuge Nini was also amazed, thinking that Ye Lin's class was another SSS rank. The principal was also glad, thinking that this was another anomaly. Ye Lin asked the principal about his class, and the principal then declared Ye Lin to be a combat class SSS level Forbidden Curse Master. Today, Ye Lin had also honored Qingqing Academy, and the academy was proud of him, the principal announced. However, before he could complete his words, he finally realized that Ye Lin had a Forbidden Curse Master profession. He was shocked as he really couldn't believe the poor student's rotten luck. The other students laughed at Ye Lin when they heard this news. You see, no Forbidden Curse Master, if any, had ever lived past the age of 25. Because the Forbidden Curse Master was the kind of profession that consumes one's own life to use a skill. Due to this, someone who has this profession always die young. Ye Lin's class was considered a trash class, and the mere thought of using a loan to acquire such a useless skill was truly tragic. Zhuge Nini decided to walk away. She sighed as she was disappointed with the class Ye Lin got. Ye Lin, ever the master of deception, feigned being down. His act was so convincing that the old guy felt sorry for him. He patted him on the back and wished him good luck. Although he's such a good kid, he's unfortunate to only get the Curse Master profession. Ye Lin then asked the principal if all Curse Masters really die at the age of 25. The principal just told him not to be negative, as it was better to burn brightly than to live a meaningless life. Ye Lin thanked the old guy, stating his desire to burn brightly like the sun, and also bring honor to the school. The principal then told him that he would make a special training for him together with Zhuge Nini. Ye Lin agreed to this and smiled knowingly. He found it funny that he would die early just because his profession was a double-edged sword. Thus, of course, if he didn't have a cheat ability to counter this death threat. This dying early thing for Curse Masters has got nothing on him and his immortality. After the class transfer, everyone decided to head back home. Ye Lin was planning to head straight back to his house. He was tired and wanted to have a good night's sleep. While walking, someone called him by his name. It was Zhuge Nini. She offered him to team up with her, as she believes that the more the Curse Master fights, the quicker they die. She told Ye Lin that her intention wasn't bad. She was just trying to help since they were classmates. However, Ye Lin refused to accept the offer. Zhuge Nini didn't force him at all. She walked away, stating that Ye Lin was such a stubborn idiot heading for death. Ye Lin ignored her and continued walking. But then, another group of students blocked his way and told him that he really thinks he has risen up just because he has switched to a Curse Master. These guys were Ye Lin's classmates, and they got mad as they could not accept Zhuge Nini's earlier offer to team up with him. Ye Lin was annoyed. Women really were troublesome. Because of just 2 lines from Zhuge Nini, these idiots were looking for trouble. Ye Lin replied that he was on his way back home. The guys laughed at Ye Lin's expense. Was the poor student referring to his 10 square meter shack a home? Ye Lin, now that you're SSS ranked, how about you call me daddy, and I'll get you a security job at G Corporation. The leader of the group mocked arrogantly. The others laughed, and added that being a G Corp security guard was a privilege. He also ordered Ye Lin to kneel before their young master. Once Ye Lin takes the offer and gets paid, he can buy some nice incense for his dead orphanage family. The 3 continued to tease Ye Lin, even stating that he was just an orphan who didn't deserve to have a family. Ye Lin was already mad, and as he stares at them with a serious look, his eyes flamed with a blue and red aura as he activates a curse magic power. He told the idiots that they were the ones who forced his hand. Confused at Ye Lin's willingness to use a curse magic, knowing full well of the implications, made the 3 idiot question what he was trying to do. Was he really going to use a curse magic and shorten his lifespan? Why wouldn't I? Ye Lin also questioned with a puzzled look. Didn't you fools speak of my dead family? Conjuring a slight lightning strike, Ye Lin's attack was only to scare them. The guys, now scared shitless of Ye Lin, pleaded about the need for their classmate not to use a forbidden curse on them. But Ye Lin simply stretched his hand and challenged the idiots to come at him if they dare. However, they decided to run away in fear. Ye Lin then deactivated his curse ability and uttered, "What a bunch of trash." They actually ran off with just 1 move. As he continued to walk, he felt like his duodenum was scorched. He wasn't aware that Zhuge Nini witnessed the commotion. She was annoyed that he was getting provoked by a few insults and was ready to throw his life away. She was sure that even if someone acted like Ye Lin, who isn't a curse user, they would definitely not go far. For her, Ye Lin wasn't worthy of standing beside her. The night came, and Ye Lin was already at his home. Ye Lin placed his bag down on the couch and sat while checking his system interface. Apparently, sacrificing a piece of duodenum would summon a regular lightning bolt. But sacrificing a bladder summons thunder from burial waters. Next, sacrificing a heart can summon destruction purple lightning. If that is the case, Ye Lin concludes he would die summoning the most powerful chaos god thunder. He lay down on his couch when he felt his head spinning, but he was aware that it was the side effects of his body recovery. At the same time, Ji Lingyu went to his father and asked to avenge him. He wanted his dad to send someone to take Ye Lin out. However, his father reminded him that killing an SSS-rank curse user was very risky, and there is no benefit in it for them. He's aware that someone who goes all out using forbidden spells, just because of a few insults, is clearly emotionally unstable. He snuffed out his cigarette on the ashtray and told his son not to forget that Ye Lin is from a poor background. He wants his son to learn how to use his greatest advantage to target the enemy's weakest spot. Early the next day, Ye Lin went to the Qingqing Academy. He kept yawning due to a lack of a well-deserved sleep. The students around started murmuring about what he'd done the day before when suddenly, someone tapped Ye Lin on the shoulder with a bottle. It was none other than Ji Lingyu. Inside the bottle was milk he brought as peace offering. He also brought breakfast for Ye Lin. Ye Lin was clueless as to why, but accepts the milk regardless. At first, he thought Ji Lingyu was trying to poison him just because he couldn't beat him. But the poor guy replied that he wouldn't dare. It was just his way of thanking him. "Thank me?" Ye Lin questioned with a skeptical look. "Yeah," Ji Lingyu replied with a forced smile. Ye Lin drank the milk and told Ji Lingyu to just say what he wants. Unexpectedly, Ji Lingyu stated that he was grateful that Ye Lin struck him like a bolt of lightning. Apparently, that lightning strike was Ji Lingyu's wake-up call. He also added that Ye Lin's appearance made him realize that he has been wasting his life in a daze. Ye Lin called Ji Lingyu on his bullshit and again, told the idiot to say what he really wants. Ji Lingyu suddenly kneeled and stated that he wants to call Ye Lin big brother. Ye Lin was shocked and questioned him if he happened to hit him in the head. But Ji Lingyu replied that he was serious, and that the beating he received the day before made him reflect on himself. He deeply reflected and wants to become a better person. But he needs a great role model. Ye Lin agreed to be his role model, but there need to be some tuition payment. Surprising enough, Ji Lingyu didn't refuse and immediately asked for Ye Lin's account number. Ye Lin headed to the field as he gave his account number. He told Ji Lingyu to transfer 2 million as a first-term tuition payment. When Ye Lin asked if it was too expensive, Ji Lingyu reassured him that it was not. He will inform his dad to send it right away. At this time, a novice secret realm opened on the field as a test for the students. The principal hopes all the candidates from each academy could perform well. Of course, everyone was wishing for their victory. Ye Lin and Zhuganini were in the front, so the old men beside the principal believed both students were from Qingqing High School, who got the SSS-Class profession for this year. For them, both looked extraordinary. The principal was annoyed, stating that he had already told Ye Lin and Zhuganini to keep a low profile. But these kids really don't know how to behave. 2 of them ended up getting SSS-Class jobs at once, and it seems to be just infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Isn't it? He then laughed and turned to face the rest, questioning why they weren't saying anything. Were they all born mute or something? The 3 old guys walked away, saying they still had some things to do. As you might have guessed, it turns out they were annoyed by the principal for being full of himself and rubbing their faces in. Anyway, the moment entering the novice secret realm was issued, the examinees began to swamp the entrance like a tidal wave. Before Ye Lin could enter, Zhuganini asked him once again to team up with her. Still, Ye Lin refused, which made her think he was very arrogant. Since he was so eager to die, she won't stop him. Ye Lin ignored her and immediately entered the secret realm. As he landed, he noticed he was alone. No one was around, so he thought it was a random teleportation. A level 1 leopard cat then appeared. It roared, but Ye Lin wasn't scared at all, but rather excited. He believed it was a perfect enemy to test his forbidden spell. He then attacked it and instantly killed it without any struggle. Ye Lin was awarded 10 experience points, but he was disappointed, deeming it too little for him. He walked away while stating that it doesn't even justify the damage to his kidneys, and that he has to kill 100 of these leopard cat just to reach level 2, which is why he decided to figure something out. A while later, Ye Lin let 100 kinds of monsters chase him. As he ran, he couldn't stop smiling, believing this wave of monsters should be enough to give him a good amount of experience points. Some of these monsters have a human half-body. He stops running and turned to look at them, stating his desire to test his newly learned forbidden curse. He then casts his destructive surge. The curse was so terrifying that it increased Ye Lin's strength, agility, and spirit twofold. With burning reincarnation activated, he believes that even a level 10 monster probably couldn't withstand his full-powered world-ending thunderstrike. He then attacked some of the monsters, slashing them without any hesitation. He noticed he aged in just 5 minutes of using the skill, so he decided to stop using the Burning Reincarnation Forbidden Curse after about 1 minute at most, if he didn't want to reveal his undying body. He continued by using his Vitality Preservation. He sacrificed his left arm and tapped the ground as he activated his world-ending Fury Forbidden Curse. He killed a level 3 Grey Wolf and was rewarded with 30 experience points. Then a level 5 Two-Headed Snake and received 50 experience points. A level 6 Armored Scorpion and gained 60 experience points each for the 6 Centaur. And finally, a level 2 Killed Bee and gained 20 experience points. With that, he leveled up to level 3. He was satisfied and amazed with this development. He also learned a new forbidden curse, which was a Hellfire Scorches the Sky. An hour later, Zhuge Nini encountered the area where Ye Lin had killed all those monsters. She was shocked when she saw so many monsters incinerated to ash. She was in disbelief, wondering what had just happened. Then she noticed a hellfire. Confused, she checked it out regardless since she didn't know anyone who had the fire element in Qingqing besides her. But now there was such an intense fire element fluctuation. Also, the fire element wave might be even stronger than hers. She then saw something that gave her a hint that this commotion was surely caused by a human. Looks like Qingqing is full of hidden dragons. Zhuge Nini will definitely find out who you are, she vowed with determination. But at this moment nearby, Ye Lin was spending some time roasting some meat to eat. He was enjoying a three-eyed demon pig meat. He realized he was eating more than his usual since his body used up too much energy earlier. After eating, he then decided to head to a farther area and grind some more. When he was about to leave, Zhuge Nini suddenly appeared and called him. Ye Lin, what are you doing here? She asked. Ye Lin was annoyed that he'd ran into her. It was a hassle for him as he didn't want anyone to find out his secret. He smiled at her and replied that he was just casually roasting something to eat. Zhuge Nini then told him once more that a Forbidden Curse Masterclass was totally not suited for solo grinding. Ye Lin was annoyed when Zhuge Nini walked away, telling him it is too late for regrets now, and following her won't help him anymore. She really assumed Ye Lin was tagging along with her, so she told him she didn't have time to team up with him anymore. Ye Lin was thinking Zhuge Nini might be missing a few brain cells. Zhuge Nini, on the other hand, looked back at him and asked him if he had seen anyone else pass the area, and she stated that that person is extremely powerful, very skilled with fire element manipulation, and likely mastered Hellfire. Hellfire? Yeah, I saw him. He was a very handsome guy. He went that way, Ye Lin replied calmly. He knew he could not let Zhuge Nini cling to him, so he decided not to use the Hellfire spell anymore going forward. As Zhuge Nini continued walking, she blamed Ye Lin for wasting her time. Otherwise, she would have found the Hellfire user by now. She noticed a shadow looming above her, but when she raised her head, she was shocked to see a level 8 Dragonblood behemoth. She dodged when it tried to attack her. Zhuge Nini was puzzled as to why a level 8 monster would appear in the area she was. She looked behind her, deducing that Ye Lin might have run away far by now. She then attacked the monster with her Fireball Storm. However, it didn't deal much damage, not enough to kill the monster. The monster looked at her with anger. It charged toward her at a fast speed and bumped her, trashing her away. She fights back with her flame, but the monster roared, blowing the flame back at her. Zhuge Nini was dumbfounded as all the flames hit her. The monster stood there as the smoke settles. When it eventually did, Zhuge Nini was on the ground with her clothes ripped, trembling in pain. She admitted that she was too arrogant to believe that she can definitely defeat a level 8 Dragonblood behemoth in this secret realm. She was afraid she would die at the hands of the level 8 monster, knowing it would be a humiliating death. Lucky for her, someone intervened and attacked the monster using a Forbidden Curse Hellfire. The poor monster was literally burned to ash. As expected, Zhuge Nini was shocked, knowing this Hellfire user was the one she was searching for. Turning to face her savior, Zhuge Nini thanked this mysterious person and wanted to know his name. The questionable masked individual was none other than Ye Lin. Ye Lin was standing on a tree branch with a mask. He told Zhuge Nini to call him Ling Yi, which meant early dawn and night. Ling for early dawn, Yi for night. Placing a finger on her lips, Zhuge Nini acted all pitiful and curious, asking the mysterious Ling Yi which school he was from. Although she was grateful to her savior, she also wanted to know who exactly was underneath that mask. So she concealed her intentions by stating she simply wanted to thank Ye Lin properly when they exit the dungeon. Ye Lin just stared at her like she was an idiot. He didn't need her fucking thanks. He told Zhuge Nini that there was no need to thank him. It was just the small effort after all. Anyway, the moment Ye Lin was about to bounce, Zhuge Nini pleaded for him to wait. She tried to get on her feet, but Ye Lin told her not to follow him. There are even stronger monsters ahead, and it was definitely not a place for someone of her strength to step into. Also, she might want to put her clothes back on properly before anything else. This sudden revelation drew Zhuganini's attention to the current state of her clothes. She blushed in embarrassment and laid on the ground to cover herself, wishing the ground could swallow her whole. When she raised her head, she realized the mysterious Ling Yi was gone. Zhuganini shouts Ling Yi's name, vowing to catch up to him one day. She will stand proudly by his side. Ye Lin, on the other hand, seamlessly leaped from one tree branch to the next, and after putting some distance between himself and Zhuganini, he believes what just happened would keep Zhuganini from clinging to him. He'd wasted time on her and needed to hurry up and level up. Opening his status window, Ye Lin saw that he'd gotten a new forbidden curse named Undying. He needed to sacrifice 2.5 years of his lifespan to negate one fatal injury. Seriously, what the hell? The Forbidden Spellcaster really is a short-lived class, always screwing with a person's lifespan. But this skill was practically an added bonus for Ye Lin. With this forbidden curse, Ye Lin can negate one fatal blow. That also meant even if someone stabs him in the heart from behind, he wouldn't be bothered. What's more, with this, even forbidden curses that required sacrificing the heart or his freaking head, he can actively use them once. This was just too freaking good. Now, he can grind levels recklessly without restraint. Nobody can stop his leveling pace. 3 days later, which also happens to be the last day of the test, the old guys gather at the entrance of the novice secret realm. The principal of Qingcheng Academy greeted his old mates with his usual condescending demeanor. The short-hair man among them, Principal Su, questioned what the principal was showing off for. So what if he has 2 SSS-rank job changers? Exactly, the other added. Level can be more important than class rank sometimes. The red-haired also agreed, adding that the highest record for Qingcheng's secret realm test was level 11, which still remained unbroken. He shifted his gaze towards Principal Su, stating that if he remembered correctly, that student was from Principal Su's Yutsai Academy. Principal Su replied that the red-haired principal was right. He also wondered if the record will be broken this year. The principal of Qingcheng Academy added that they will see. He believes his student can definitely surprise everyone. Just then, someone unexpected suddenly appeared at the scene and greeted the principals. He asked if he could join them. This person was Zhuge Qianxing, Zhuganini's father. Surprised to see Zhuge Qianxing, Principal Su stated that it had been a long time. The principal of Qingcheng Academy added that it was an honor. After all, Zhuge Qianxing was their school's astrologer. With pleasantries out of the way, Zhuge Qianxing asked about his daughter, wondering if she caused any trouble for the principal. Seeing how Zhuge Qianxing dotes on her daughter, the principal replied calmly, "No, not at all. Zhuganini is the pride of our Changxing Academy." But just then, they noticed someone coming out of the dungeon. The time for the dungeon wasn't up yet, but someone was already coming out. The principal of Qingcheng Academy deduced that the person must be injured. This person turned out to be none other than Zhuganini, who greeted the principals and was surprised to see her father. Her father wanted to know the reason why she came out early, and her principal wanted to know the level she was at. Zhuganini calmly stated that she was at level 12, which shocked all the principals present. With the record broken just like that, her principal was very proud. His student was worthy of being a fire mage. Zhuge Qianxing approached her daughter and stated that she was too willful. After all, if she had stayed inside the dungeon and grind some more before coming out, she would have definitely shot up to level 13. Zhuganini replied her father that the dungeon just became too boring. It took her ages to find monsters around level 10, and the experience reward was also pitifully small. But in all honesty, the real reason Zhuganini came out early was to find Ling Yi. Being the first to come out meant she could see everyone who comes out afterward. Meanwhile, back inside the secret realm, Ye Lin suddenly sneezed heavily like he already had a cold. He found this behavior strange since the area he currently wasn't cold. So why did he suddenly sneeze like that? Was someone cursing him? With level 10 area monsters all gone, could it be that he grind too hard? It looks like he needs to expand his search range. Ye Lin raised his hand and decided to try out another new forbidden curse he'd learned, instantaneous range. This forbidden curse casting sacrifices an organ based on the organ's importance. He can also gain agility with its maximum being 10 times extra agility of an hour duration. Ye Lin spared no time activating this forbidden curse of 10-time agility, sacrificing his kidney. The feeling was awesome. Even a level 50 assassin couldn't possibly have such speed. Moving like a bolt of lightning, Ye Lin made an insane dash forward, creating a sonic boom and destroying everything in his path. He was so fast that before a 3-headed storm mantis monster felt his presence, it was too late. Ye Lin sacrificed his bladder, summoning a bolt of lightning which incinerated the monster into ash. This forbidden spell was the Ashen Fierce Thunder. Back at the entrance of the Novice Secret Realm, many students exit the dungeon in droves, some in excitement, and others in fear to finally escape with their lives. However, all this while, Zhuge had been patiently waiting at the entrance, hoping to see Ling Yi. But after a long while, she found it strange that he hadn't appeared yet. There was only 5 minutes left, and all the candidates who had completed the test were asked to return to their designated school area. With the test ending soon, it looks like the highest record this year would belong to Zhuge. This meant that Qingcheng Academy got really lucky this year besides the acquisition of 2 SSS rank students at a go. But speaking of Qingcheng Academy's SSS rank students, the other had yet to exit the secret realm, right? The countdown time had 3 minutes left, and the moment Zhuge heard this, she wondered if she had perhaps missed her target exiting the dungeon. But after briefly thinking it over, she found it to be impossible. She had been staring at the dungeon's entrance the moment she got out. In that moment, the entrance of the secret realm began to shimmer with a golden glow, indicating that someone was coming out. Seeing this, Zhuge was certain it must be Ling Yi, but was surprised when it turned out to be her classmate Ye Lin. Shocked, she asked why. Why was it Ye Lin? Ye Lin was puzzled with this stupid question. The time was up, so of course he had to exit the dungeon. Was there a problem? Zhuge got over her initial shock and began to walk away. She told Ye Lin that he was a coward and should stay away from him. Hearing this, Ye Lin gritted his teeth in annoyance. Seriously, what's wrong with this bitch? Was she a psycho? His principal approached him at this moment and asked what level he was at. He didn't have much expectation and was just curious as to what level his second SSS rank student was at. Ye Lin calmly replied that he was at level 16. The crowd present was stunned. You see, leveling up from 1 to 16 requires a total of 120,000 experience points. And the highest level monster in the Novice Secret Realm was level 10. Killing level 10 monsters gives 100 XP, meaning Ye Lin killed 1,200 level 10 monsters. How was that even possible? The principal suddenly began praising Ye Lin like crazy, stating that he was the pride of Qingcheng Academy. Surprised with the young man's talent, Zhuge Qianqing also congratulated Ye Lin. This annoyed his daughter. She coldly remarked, "With Ye Lin's profession, what's so special about being level 16? Ye Lin was a forbidden curse master. If he recklessly uses forbidden curses, isn't it normal for him to level up quickly?" When the other principals heard Ye Lin's profession, they found Zhuge explanation reasonable. The rest of the crowd also believe Ye Lin must be crazy when they heard of his profession, frantically casting forbidden curses in the beginner's secret realm to level up. Other curse masters don't live past 25, and the way Ye Lin was leveling up meant he probably won't make it to 20. Seriously, trading one's life for empty fame, truly a foolish behavior. Some also believed Ye Lin was frantically leveling up just so they'll envy him. But he will pay with his life eventually, so they should let him have his glory for a few days. The long-haired principal approached Ye Lin and questioned earnestly, "Student Ye Lin, why bother? Tell me honestly, did Principal Gao put you up to this? It seems you've been deceived. Principal Gao is trading your life for the school's honor." Irritated, Principal Gao asked what nonsense his old mate was spouting. He was a person of integrity. How could he possibly joke with the lives of his students? Ye Lin finally spoke after putting on a pitiful act. He stated that nobody forced him. It was all voluntary. "I grew up in a poor family and was always looked down upon. Now that I have the chance to go all out, I won't be a coward. Even if I wither at my most brilliant moment, I don't care. I want everyone to know that I can do it." The moment Ye Lin finished his emotional speech, Zhuge Qianqing clapped and stated calmly, "Well said. This young guy truly has grand ambitions. In any case, he's the highest level student in this beginner's secret realm test. That's undeniable, isn't it? He's number 1. Zhuge Qianqing introduced himself to Ye Lin as the father of Zhuge. If Ye Lin needs anything in the future, he can contact him. Zhuge was pissed off when she heard this, questioning her father why he believes Ye Lin was number 1. When Ling Yi comes out, his level will definitely not be lower than Ye Lin's. "Oh, is that so?" his father retorted, although his tone was smoothing. "Who is this talented Ling Yi?" Hearing this question, the principals began asking themselves if any of them had a student by that name. However, none of them seemed to have heard of this student. But Zhuge still spoke confidently that Ling Yi was a true heaven's pride, and when he comes out of the dungeon, everything will be proven. Meanwhile, inwardly, Ye Lin was again insulting Zhuge as a stupid bitch. She just couldn't keep her freaking mouth shut. Having enough of this farce, Ye Lin said his goodbye to Principal Gao and Zhuge Qianqing before taking his leave. He wanted to go home and rest well. Shortly after that, the time was up and the novice secret realm test was over. But Zhuganini was puzzled with this outcome. Where was Ling Yi? Could it be that while I was talking to Ye Lin, Ling Yi quietly slipped away? Cursing, Zhuganini started blaming Ye Lin. She believed Ling Yi's escape was Ye Lin's fault. When her father placed a hand on her shoulder, she asked if he believes him. Ling Yi was truly a genius and even saved her life. Zhuge Qianxing figured out that her daughter's early exit from the dungeon was simply to find this mysterious Ling Yi. But this was a bit strange. He asked Zhuganini if it was possible that Ye Lin was the mysterious Ling Yi she had been looking for. Hearing this, Zhuganini vehemently denied this possibility. What was her father thinking? How could that coward be compared to Ling Yi? Ye Lin saw the dragon blood behemoth she faced in the dungeon and ran away in terror like a coward. And Ling Yi's mastery of the fire element was extremely high. How can Ye Lin of all people know about stuff like that? Meanwhile, back inside his apartment, Ye Lin let out another heavy sneeze which jolted him awake. He wondered who was talking behind his back. Seriously, it must be that stupid woman Zhuganini. Just then, a knock on his door drew his attention. Ye Lin asked who the person was, and the moment he opened the door, he questioned the fat business guy in front of him. The fat guy introduced himself as Wang. Mr. Wang, the manager of Qingcheng Brain King Oral Liquid Limited Company. He had been searching for Ye Lin for a while, and now he'd finally found him. The moment Ye Lin led Mr. Wang inside his apartment, he questioned what he was there for. Mr. Wang replied that he's got good news for Ye Lin. He heard Ye Lin successfully changed profession and even broke the highest level record in Qingcheng's beginner's secret realm. So his company was sincerely inviting him to endorse their product. Of course, the remuneration will definitely be substantial. Ye Lin asked how much exactly was substantial. Mr. Wang raised 3 fingers which implied 3 million. He hands Ye Lin a tiny bottle, telling him to try it. It was the company's new product, a Brain King oral liquid, and not only does it nourish the brain and enhance intelligence, but it also promotes cell regeneration. Consuming 1 bottle and a person would feel several years younger. Also, this century-old enterprise had a 10 times refund guarantee if the drug is proven ineffective. Ye Lin should try it. Ye Lin opened the cap of the bottle, knowing full well 3 million was worth several of his kidneys. It looks like fame really does pay. He drank the content in the bottle, which tasted a little sweet. Then he suddenly felt dizzy. Ye Lin passed out immediately after. Lying in his couch, Mr. Wang called someone on the phone and told the person that Ye Lin drank the content in the bottle. He prepared backup plans, but they weren't even needed. It seems Ye Lin was a simple fool. Mr. Wang was ordered to bring Ye Lin over. A while later, deep into the night at an unspecified location, inside an abandoned warehouse, Mr. Wang had successfully brought Ye Lin to his boss. Although he doesn't understand why his boss was going through such lengths from a mere student, he knows he didn't have the right to ask questions. His boss, who happens to be the shop owner in the black market Ye Lin used to sell his organs to, told Mr. Wang to leave. Without his orders, no one should be allowed in. If anyone violates this order, they will be killed. Mr. Wang replied he understands and left the warehouse. The greedy shop owner crouched beside Ye Lin, recalling how Ye Lin sold him his liver, coronary arteries, gallbladder, corneas, kidneys, spleen, large intestine, small intestine. And surprising enough, they've all grown back. The organs Ye Lin previously sold to him have all regenerated. Incredible. This is simply incredible. With Ye Lin, he can master the secret of organ regeneration. As he got drunk on his delusional fantasies, someone added that the old bastard will have supreme power and wealth. Even the most powerful people will kneel before him. Hearing this, the old bastard Ji Yuzhen agreed. Exactly. But the moment he said this, he realized what just happened. Turning around, he was stunned to find Ye Lin casually sitting on a chair with his arms and leg crossed. Ji Yuzhen wondered how it was possible. How was Ye Lin awake this early? His sleeping drug could keep even an elephant unconscious for 6 hours. But Ye Lin was not concerned about the stupid sleeping potion. He was more curious about how Ji Yuzhen managed to track him down. Ji Yuzhen got over his initial shock, pointed his blade at Ye Lin, and stated that since his cash cow was awake, he won't be polite anymore. He should surrender obediently, and he will guarantee Ye Lin won't lose any limb. Ji Yuzhen's profession was currently a level 20 phantom blade. Ye Lin realized Geogans also had a job change with a higher level than his own. Left with no choice, he decided to get serious. He knew using fire element would easily burn this entire place down, so it was better not to cause too much commotion. Ye Lin decided to use his eternal freezing gaze. It was a forbidden curse that sacrifices his eyeballs to freeze everything within sight before becoming blind. Petrified, Ji Yuzhen was shocked to find the entire lower half of his body frozen. Ye Lin kept the spell active as the ice around Ji Yujen started extending. Ji Yujen wondered what's going on. What kind of spell was it? He plunged his blade into the ice around him, but was unable to break it. His eyes widened when the ice finally encased his entire body, leaving only his head. Ji Yujen kept muttering that it was impossible. Ye Lin was only at level 16 while he was at level 20. Even if Ye Lin was a forbidden curse master, he couldn't possibly defeat him in one strike. What kind of monster was he? Now that Ji Yujen was trapped in place, Ye Lin can have a proper chat with him. He asked Ji Yujen who else knew about his organ regeneration ability. Ji Yujen replied that besides him, no one knew. After all, with such amazing discovery, why would he tell someone else? Hearing this, Ye Lin chose to believe the old bastard and decide to make his death quick and painless. He raised his fist and smashed the poor old bastard into broken ice lollies. Also, after consuming all the sleeping drug, he decided to sacrifice his stomach first. Sacrificing his stomach, Ye Lin rained lightning on the guards outside. He left one alive for questioning. The poor fatty didn't want to die, so the moment Ye Lin asked who was his boss behind the scenes, he initially tried to reason with Ye Lin that he couldn't say, otherwise he would be killed. But after seeing Ye Lin enveloped with lightning sparks, he spoke up immediately. Their boss was king of Qingcheng Underground Market, Kensen. The poor fatty was struck with a bolt of lightning the moment he was done talking. Grabbing his chin, Ye Lin walked away, trying to recall where he'd heard Kensen. The name seems familiar. It didn't take much effort to recall that Kensen was one of Qingcheng City's top 10 outstanding philanthropists. This just got complicated. Meanwhile, elsewhere at Qingcheng's underground black market, a middle-aged man with a thick cigar lounged in a leather sofa as one of his men informed him about some urgent news. This fucker was Kensen, and with his brows furrowed, he was shocked upon receiving news that all contact with his agent, Jihu, had been lost. The bald fellow informed him that they hadn't been able to contact Jihu for half an hour, so they went to his farmhouse, only to find the entire area burned to the ground. And judging by the wreckage from the fire, it was done by a job holder. Kensen grew furious and stumped on the table in front of him, wrecking it. He ordered his men to find the culprit immediately, with no delay. The next day, Ye Lin arrived at the grand residence of the Ji family, where he was warmly welcomed by Ji Lingyu, who had become a loyal follower after their previous encounter. As soon as he heard that Ye Lin was visiting, he immediately sent someone to pick him up. Ji Lingyu shyly brought up the 2 million yuan that Ye Lin had asked for earlier, adding that he'd already talked to his father. However, Ye Lin interrupted him, questioning if Ji Lingyu was trying to disrespect him talking about money in that moment. Since he'd agreed to accept Ji Lingyu as an underling, money was just a small matter. Hearing this, Ji Lingyu placed an arm around Ye Lin's shoulders and welcomed him wholeheartedly. From now on, Ye Lin should consider his home as his as well. Inwardly, Ji Lingyu realized that his father was right. He believes Ye Lin was a simple-minded guy who cared a lot about his dignity, so as long as he can exploit that, then he should be able to achieve his goal. Ye Lin, on the other hand, had planned this encounter with the purpose of using the Ji family as a shield against Kensen and his men. He was sure Kensen wouldn't dare attack him inside the Ji family estate. Ye Lin entered the house and was surprised to find a large number of maids lined up, greeting him politely and respectfully, which left him a bit speechless. He looked at the maids and thought to himself how different life was when one had wealth. Ji Lingyu offered to assign one of the maids to be Ye Lin's personal servant, and Ye Lin accepted the offer. But soon after, Ye Lin felt embarrassed and refused, saying he was only joking. However, Ji Lingyu insisted, adding that his boss should also change his clothes for something important. Ye Lin eagerly asked what the important matter was, but Ji Lingyu told him to wait until they arrived at the destination. Eventually, they arrived at the annual Qingcheng auction, and Ji Lingyu informed him that this was the grand venue he had never visited before. Upon arriving at the annual auction in Qingcheng City, Ji Lingyu told Ye Lin that he would later introduce him to some of the city's most important figures, but Ye Lin preferred to start with food, and told Ji Lingyu to go about his own business and not mind him. Internally, Ji Lingyu sarcastically commented on Ye Lin's simplicity and naivety, thinking he still lacked experience due to his poor upbringing. As Ye Lin ate heartily, especially since he had previously sacrificed his stomach and now needed to compensate by eating more, he heard a voice beside him asking why he was here. When he turned around, he saw Zhuganini and her friend Lu Yanwei standing there. Lu Yanwei asked Zhuganini who Ye Lin was. Ye Lin felt annoyed seeing Zhuganini again, wondering to himself why this stupid woman keeps showing up in front of him all the time. Zhuganini responded to her friend with displeasure, stating that Ye Lin was just the coward who ran from the monster in the novice secret realm, expressing her frustration at seeing him again. Zhuganini deems Ye Lin as bad luck. Ye Lin smirked inwardly, wondering what Zhuganini's face would look like if she discovered he was actually Ling Yi, the very person she admires deeply. Ji Lingyu arrived with a group of friends to proudly introduce them to Ye Lin, presenting him as his superior. The group was surprised by this, and in a mocking tone, stated that Ji Lingyu should be the one in charge. However, Ji Lingyu firmly responded that Ye Lin was no ordinary person and that his level was now very high. Everyone was stunned to learn that Ye Lin had reached level 16 in the novice secret realm. Shocked by the huge gap between his level and their own modest ones, Ye Lin calmly advised them not to be too surprised and expressed his willingness to help them level up. If only they could get out of the city, then they could all get good results in the upcoming major exam. Everyone became excited upon hearing that Ye Lin was willing to help them, but Ji Lingyu expressed concern because they were forbidden from leaving the city before the major exam, to prevent students from gaining assistance from stronger individuals. Ye Lin then subtly hinted that the journey to the exam site itself might be a good opportunity for leveling up, though he voiced concern about lacking equipment. Ji Lingyu quickly reassured him that equipment would not be a problem at all and promised to provide anything he needed from the current auction. Ye Lin was surprised by the offer, but Ji Lingyu assured him that his father would financially support them no matter the cost if it would improve his exam performance. The auction began with the appearance of the beautiful hostess, who welcomed the attendees and introduced herself as Qingqing from the auction house. She wished everyone success in obtaining what they desire, and a warm applause ensued seconds after. Without delay, Qingqing presented the first item, an epic fire-type skill scroll for mages, starting the bid at 500,000 yuan. The bids rose quickly until they suddenly reached 3 million yuan, and the bidder behind this massive offer was none other than Zhuge Qianqing, Zhuganini's father. Ye Lin watched the scene calmly with a smile, realizing that Zhuge Qianqing was spending generously to buy skills for his daughter, but deep down he felt satisfied with himself. After all, as a master of forbidden curses, he didn't need such scrolls at all because his skills were all-powerful curses. Ye Lin turned to Ji Lingyu and whispered, "Your profession is an A-rank Shadow Blade, right? If something pops up that suits your class, don't hesitate. Bid right away. The right skill might save your life later." The auctioneer smiled, her voice crisp and clear. Next up, an item of rare quality. The Royal Dragon Wish Ring. It increases spirit by 30% and grants the passive skill, Dragon's Aura. The starting bid was 2 million and the minimum raise 100,000. Ladies and gentlemen, place your bids. The crowd erupted and the first bid was 2.5 million, then raised to 3 million, then 3.1. Bids began to pour in rapid succession. Ye Lin's eyes sparkled. A 30% spirit boost? That's huge. For any awakened fighter, that's a game changer. He edged Lingyu to bid for the ring. Ji Lingyu leaned toward his father and told him that he wanted that ring. His father didn't even hesitate. 8 million. He believes that spending 8 million to help his son ace the national exam and enter into a prestigious university is worth the money. And about Ye Lin, he was a forbidden caster and won't live long anyway. So after a few years, he will be dead and every equipment purchased for him will eventually end up returning to the Ji family. The auctioneer raised her voice, wanting to know if anyone was willing to offer a higher bid. In that moment, it seemed that no one wanted to bid more than 8 million, when suddenly, a bid of 10 million was announced from behind. The room fell silent as Kenson's tall and imposing figure stepped into view. He called out President Ji and asked how he was doing. It's no surprise that the two know each other very well, and the moment the underground king was noticed, gasps echoed across the room. Everyone was curious as to why he was there since this wasn't his usual crowd. On the other hand, Ye Lin instinctively stepped back into the crowd after finally meeting Kenson, even if it's in passing. He can't be discovered. President Ji was curious to know what exactly his G group has done to offend Kenson. Kenson chuckled darkly and narrowed his eyes as he points a finger at President Ji. Kenson stated that President Ji had his men killed, and now he wants him to be polite about it. President Ji stayed calm and replied that he doesn't know what Kenson was talking about, but if he was looking for a fight, then his G group was not easy to bully. He then bids 12 million. Kenson's face twisted into a smile. He'd received the message loud and clear. They'll see who lasts until the very end. On his way out, he muttered to his assistant if he'd verified the car from the warehouse. The guy nodded and replied that there was no doubt that it was from G Group. They followed it straight back to G family's villa that evening. Kenson's face darkens upon this confirmation. He coldly stated that President Ji shouldn't blame him for what he's about to do. Moments later, the Royal Dragon Wish Ring was sold for 12 million. President Ji offered Ye Lin the ring and asked if he likes it. Ye Lin replied that he does and thanked him. Ji Lingyu leaned over and asked his father who Kenson was. His father replied that Kenson was the underworld king who's been trying to go legit. But now he'd suddenly set his eyes on their family's empire. Kenson didn't look like the type of guy to make idle threats. So Ye Lin warns President Ji that although the Ji group was powerful and often attracts unwanted attention, it wouldn't hurt to stay alert and being careful. Hearing this, President Ji agreed. The Emperor Dragon Rui ring increases spiritual attribute by 30%. The user of the ring was blessed by dragon energy, and their luck will increase by 10. Ye Lin slipped the ring onto his finger and got a rush of energy surged through him. His spirit stats shot up by 30% and his luck also increased by 10. Excited, he assured President Ji not to worry. Even if he had to force his son, he will make sure Ji Lingyu gets into a prestigious academy. President Ji chuckled, stating that they were all family now, so Ye Lin did not need to be overly formal. He and his son were practically brothers. Whatever equipment Ye Lin likes, he should just tell him. Throughout the night, President Ji kept bidding like crazy. Ji Lingyu was completely exhausted when the auction came to an end, and it seems his father cleaned up this year's auction. Anything that caught Ye Lin's eye, they placed their bid without question, racking up several precious items. Items like the Azure Thunder ring boosts spirit by 15% and increases the power of all lightning-based skills by 20%. The Molten Moon necklace had 200 spirit bonus for mental-based casters. The Twin Yin-Yang bracelet gives 40 spiritual attributes, and wearing it unlocks both Cycle of Duality and a passive healing factor that rapidly heals injuries over time. Ye Lin's eyes sparkled, knowing full well that even if someone sees him regenerating, he now has a solid excuse. Then he picked up the prize of the night, the Falling Star Warblade. It has a 300 increase in strength, and under starlight its power stacks over time with an additional 100. Ye Lin nearly shivered in excitement. With this blade, he can finally unleash the forbidden technique he had unlocked at level 10. Then there's the lifespan blade arts. With every swing, 1 year of Ye Lin's life would be sacrificed. Also, each strike was twice as powerful as the last. This stacks up to a maximum of 99. With this sword, Ye Lin can dominate the upcoming major exams. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Zhuge Nini lay back in her private bath, annoyed. She still doesn't understand why the Ji family liked that coward Ye Lin so much. They spent so much money on him. Zhuge Nini suspects that the Ji family must be scheming something in secret. Otherwise, why pamper Ye Lin like some priced jewel? In that moment, a female housekeeper announced to Zhuge Nini that Lu Yanwei was there to see her. She brought someone who says they have information about the person she's been searching for. Zhuge Nini's eyes lit up. The person she's been looking for was obviously Ling Yi. She told the housekeeper to make them wait in the lounging room. She will be there shortly. She hurried downstairs, eager to know any information about Ling Yi. Lu Yanwei gestured toward the man beside her. This is Officer Huang. He was from the investigation bureau. He says he has news about Ling Yu. Officer Huang nodded politely and confirmed this. But he's afraid it wasn't good news. Zhuge Nini's heart skipped and questioned what Officer Huang meant. With a serious expression, Officer Huang showed Zhuge Nini something on his phone. A farmhouse outside Qingqing was burned down and there were several casualties. They also found traces of hellfire at the scene. And based on Zhuge Nini's previous description, they suspect the culprit might be the mysterious Ling Yi Zhuge Nini mentioned. The Bureau would like her to assist in the investigation. Hearing this, Zhuge Nini immediately jumped to Ling Yi's defense, shouting that he wasn't a killer. He saved her life. Zhuge Nini was not having it, and no one could make her believe that Ling Yi was a murderer without real evidence. Besides, why would a murderer risk his life to save her back then? Lu Yanwei quickly moved to calm her friend, and Officer Huang continued calmly. He understands her reaction, but the statement she gave was that Ling Yi used hellfire to obliterate an 8th-tier beast with a single attack. But during their investigation, there was no trace of anyone named Ling Yi. However, there's one individual who caught their attention. Officer Huang's tone dropped lower, and based on what they've gathered, this person may very well be her mysterious Ling Yi. Officer Huang added that their investigation also showed a high possibility that Ye Lin was Ling Yi. Zhuge Nini's eyes widened as the words sank in, but she immediately rejected this possibility. Ye Lin, that coward? No way. That guy always run away at the sight of danger. How can that coward be Ling Yi? And besides, Ye Lin wasn't capable of using hellfire. Activating his lie detection skill, Officer Huang's pupils shimmered with a faint blue light. He asked Zhuge Nini if she was absolutely certain. Without hesitation, Zhuge Nini answered that she was sure. She was the only one who's ever seen Ling Yi with her own eyes, and there was no way that coward could be Ling Yi. Officer Huang had never been wrong with his lie detection, so it seems Zhuge Nini was telling the truth. Ye Lin might not be their suspect after all. He nodded politely and thanked Zhuge Nini for her cooperation. If anything else comes up, she should inform him immediately. Meanwhile, Ye Lin had other priorities. It was time to test his new gear. Ye Lin led him to the official Awakened Association Center, the central training facility in Qingcheng. A receptionist welcomed them and questioned if they would like to conduct a training for that evening. Ye Lin confirms this, adding that his boss wants to test his new equipment. Hearing this, she asked Ye Lin what his level was. Ye Lin replied confidently that he was level 16. The lady then explains that the facility has standard training room for under 20 awakeners, priced at 100,000 yuan per hour. It also includes basic force analysis and mana calibration. Ye Lin told her he wanted a training room for level 40 or below. The receptionist was stunned for a moment, then nodded in understanding. Ye Lin waited outside as the receptionist led Ye Lin into the training room. The training room was very spacious, as big as a basketball court, with a row of dummies in the middle. According to the lady, the training room was made of special materials and was built by an SS-level builder. It can withstand the full force attack of job changers below level 40. This also applies to the dummies. It's extremely difficult for job changers below level 40 to leave marks on the dummies. The moment the door was locked, Ye Lin walked around and carefully checked the training room, and after confirming that there were no surveillance cameras, he visibly relaxed, then drew out his falling star warblade. Ye Lin made a dash forward, deciding to try Yangshuo sword technique, which consumes a year of his life with every strike. Ye Lin leaped high in the air, grasped the falling star warblade tightly, and instantly entered a mysterious state. The moment he swung the sword, his eyes became firm and deep. The first strike of the sword was followed by a deafening bang in the training room, as if something was completely torn apart. A bright light flashed on the blade of the falling star warblade, which was Ye Lin's burning life. After the first slash was made, the second slash that followed was even sharper and more powerful, and the air in the training room seemed like it's been slashed, forming an invisible sword energy. The third slash followed, then fourth and the fifth. Ye Lin's sword swinging speed was getting faster and faster, and each strike was more powerful than the last. When Ye Lin swung the sword for the 99th time, the entire training room seemed to be shaking, and strong energy fluctuations filled the air. At that moment, it was earth-shattering, and an unprecedented light burst out from the blade of the falling star warblade, illuminating the entire training room. An invisible blade energy gushed out from the blade and instantly slashed towards the dummies in front, tearing them apart. After stacking 99 layers of Yangshuo sword technique, each of his sword slash was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Ye Lin was like a god of war, after he'd slashed hundreds of times in succession. With a clang, the dummies that was said to be able to block the full force attack of job changers below level 40 laid broken on the floor. As Ye Lin carried on, testing the rest of the equipment together with his forbidden spells, a slight tremor could be felt outside. Ye Lin explained to the lady that there was a major exams approaching, so Ye Lin likes to get a little bit crazy when he starts training. The two were interrupted the moment Ye Lin walked out of the training room with satisfaction. With his two forbidden spells of Burning Reincarnation and Longevity Sword Technique, coupled with the sword and the rest of the equipment, he had a rough estimate of his current strength. Ye Lin was curious as to why Ye Lin came out so soon. Ye Lin replied that he was exhausted and needed to head back and rest. Also, he wanted to know if he doesn't need to pay for breaking things in the training room. The lady initially thought Ye Lin was joking. After all, the training room was suitable for job changers below level 40. And if Ye Lin, a level 16 job changer, can damage the things inside, then it means the quality is not up to standard. How can she ask him to pay for it? Relieved, Ye Lin quickly led Ye Lin out of there as the lady went into the training room to check. When she found out that almost everything in the training room was completely wrecked, she covered her mouth in shock. The dummies were slashed and charred, and not a single dummy was left standing. Meanwhile, back at the Ji family residence, the two guards stationed at the entrance were suddenly attacked by an unknown enemy. The neck of one of the guard was pierced with a thin needle coated in poison. As the guard clutched his neck in pain, the other, seeing this, was alarmed and asked what was wrong. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of hands suddenly emerged from the shadows behind him, and just like that, his neck was snapped horribly from behind. Screams and bloodshed followed shortly after as the scene pans to President Ji, who was currently at his study when he heard all the commotion outside. He wondered what was going on. But just then, the old housekeeper, a bit bloodied and bruised, opened the office door and told his master to run. He was about to explain when suddenly, a knife stabbed into his body along his lower back. He screamed in pain as his vitality quickly slipped away. The person responsible for this massacre finally came to view, and it was obviously none other than Kenson. "We meet again," he said, mocking President Ji. President Ji was furious as he took out his gun. But before he could even fire a shot, A long knife with a cold glow flashed by like lightning and under President Ji's incredulous gaze. His hands had already flown high into the air. Kensen smiled with disdain on his face. He called President Ji a fool for using a gun against a job changer. Seriously, was he having a brain glitch or something? You see, guns were okay in dealing with those who had just successfully changed jobs. But once their strength reached level 30 or above, guns were no different from toys in front of them. Kensen raised his sword and was ready to kill President Ji when suddenly, one of his men rushed over and informed him that the two boys were not at the villa. Although Kensen was annoyed upon hearing this, he decided to let President Ji live a little longer. After all, killing him would be equivalent to cutting off Ye Lin's weak spot. But if he doesn't annihilate everything about the Ji family, they will eventually come back and seek revenge in the future. Kensen plans to use President Ji to lure these two boys out and then eliminate them together. In less than half an hour, all the people in the Ji family villa, except Ye Lin's father, turned into cold corpses. When Ye Lin and Ye Lin returned to the residence of the Ji family, they instantly felt that something was off. The guards stationed outside were missing, the entire villa was eerie quiet, and even the lights were off like there was a power outage. Ye Lin suddenly smelled a strong stench of blood and immediately rushed inside with a sense of dread. He told Ye Lin to prepare himself mentally as he switched on the lights. Ye Lin was stunned, staring at the horrifying scene. The bodies of the job changers and servants hired by the Ji family were everywhere, with broken limbs and arms scattered all over the ground. Many people had fear written all over their faces, as if they had encountered the most terrifying evil spirit before they died. Ye Lin took a few steps back, his face ashen as he tried to deny the reality. They must have entered the wrong place. This wasn't his home. Ye Lin warned him to be careful as he screamed in fear, frantically rushing towards his father's study like a madman. There was a piece of paper on the table not far from Ye Lin. Picking it up, he called Ye Lin to come take a look. Ye Lin rushed over, seething with rage. The letter informs them that if Ye Lin wants to save his father, he should bring Ye Lin to the underground black market to find him. Also, with every 6 hours, he will cut a piece of flesh from his father. Ye Lin's anger was maxed out at this point. He tore the letter in half, vowing to kill Kensen with his own hands. Ye Lin was about to go find Kensen to fight him to the death when Ye Lin grabbed his shoulder. He stated that everything happened because of him, so he will go save President Ji while Ye Lin finds a place to hide. Ye Lin wasn't having it, so Ye Lin skillfully knocked him out. He apologized and promised to bring his father safely. Ye Lin laid the unconscious Ye Lin on the sofa and left the villa. Ye Lin promised to show Kensen how terrifying a cursed master who doesn't care about his freaking life is. Meanwhile, at the darkest heart of Qingcheng underground black market, Kensen's men were spread all over the place, alert and armed. A black shadow crossed the night sky like a ghost and landed silently without alerting any guard. Ye Lin was wearing black clothes and black shoes, and his face was wrapped in black cloth. Ye Lin completely blended into the night. Although the guards were many, if he could sneak in quietly and catch Kensen off guard, he might actually have a chance to kill him without any fuss. But just when Ye Lin was thinking about this, the next second, one of the guards suddenly turned in his direction, staring directly at him. Shocked, Ye Lin couldn't understand how. He had hidden perfectly, so why was he discovered so easily? The leader pointed his gun arrogantly at Ye Lin and informed him of the hidden camera above his head, also questioning which era Ye Lin was from to be hiding in the shadows like that. Apparently, the entire place had surveillance cameras with infrared night vision. Sure enough, Ye Lin was still a little careless. But it doesn't matter as long as he kills all these people. The guy told him that their boss had been waiting for him. As 3 of the guards approached him, Ye Lin, seeing no point in silently sneaking in, decided to just rush in directly. Since Ling Yi has already taken a lot of blame for his misdeeds, he was not afraid of him taking the blame for the assassination of Kensen as well. But this obviously needed to be under the premise that no one present could escape alive from the underground black market tonight. Otherwise, the secret of his immortality will be exposed. Also, since he's been discovered, he felt no need to disguise himself anymore. Ye Lin removed the mask covering his face and began to perform intricate signs with his left hand leisurely hidden from view. Then, very abruptly, he activated a forbidden spell, the Burning Reincarnation. With the support of 5 pieces of equipment with mental power boost, coupled with his own astonishing 1088 points, Ye Lin's mental power was currently at 2,176 points after activating the burning cycle. At this moment, the group, who had no idea what kind of terrible monster they were facing, saw a line of blazing fire gushed out from Ye Lin's palms. The purple-red flames was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to burn everything in sight. Seeing this, the 3, already aware of Ye Lin's troublesome nature, immediately opened fire. However, the shots fired were dodged by Ye Lin with ease even though the bullet were ineffective against him. Activating another forbidden spell, the fire of karma burning the sky, Ye Lin sacrificed his left kidney this time around since the right one just grew back. With the blessing of this terrifying mental power, this karmic fire that burned the sky seemed to light up the entire night sky. And the flames spread extremely quickly and engulfed all of the group in a blink of an eye. All the screams, wails, and cries for help were swallowed up by the flames, leaving only the crackling sound of the burning fire. The remaining 2 guards charged forward, deciding to attack from the flank. But before they could even comprehend what just happened in the next few seconds, Ye Lin, performing the fleeting dance technique, maxed his current speed and was upon them in an instant. He grabbed the 2 by their faces with the blazing flame gushing out from his palms. Then shortly after, their entire body was engulfed in a sea of flames. After wailing a few times, the 2 died a painful death, leaving their charred remains. Ye Lin dashed out of the blazing flames without a backward glance, silently vowing to show Kensen that his master had arrived. The moment Ye Lin got close to the main building, the door was blown off to bits as the air suddenly became violent, gathering together to form 2 sharp wind blades which cut through the night sky and head straight towards Ye Lin. Fortunately, with Ye Lin's quick and nimble movements, he was able to dodge with little effort. He was also quick to notice that the attack was from a wind type awakened, obviously a job changer above level 30. At the entrance, 2 job changers were patiently waiting for him. The swordsman mocked Ye Lin and called him a bastard for daring to come there alone. Wasn't he afraid for his life? Hearing this, his fellow spearmen laughed and reminded the swordsman that their boss wanted Ye Lin alive. The swordsman assured his brother not to worry because he doesn't intend on killing Ye Lin. He will just have some fun with him as a warm-up. On the other hand, Ye Lin drew his falling star warblade, and in a cold tone, warned the 2 about their rotten luck. They were about to face him with his sword. The moment Ye Lin unsheathed his sword, the curse spell of the life sword was naturally activated. He told the 2 to come at him so he can see how many times he can slice them up. Activating his wind magic, the dragon pistol, the spearman launched toward Ye Lin, promising to wipe that arrogant expression off his face. Ye Lin blocked the attack and countered with his first sword. The moment he did, the swordsman suddenly appeared behind him with a powerful wind blade strike. Luckily, Ye Lin's fleeting dance was faster, so he was able to dodge and even counterattack with his second sword slash. Although Ye Lin was fast, his counterattacks were weak and could only manage to scrape their skin. The 2 mocked Ye Lin for his mediocre skills. However, Ye Lin, fully aware of the 99 stacking effect of the Yangshuo sword technique, told the 2 to be patient. They will soon learn of his sword skills. His third sword was blocked by the spearman, then the 4th sword slash was blocked by the 2 simultaneously. But at this point, they began to notice something strange. Ye Lin's attacks had become powerful and were difficult to block. On top of that, his swordsmanship was also becoming sharper and profound. The 5th sword soon followed with a deafening clunk, then the 6th sword and the 7th sword. On the 8th sword strike, the force was so powerful that it shattered the swordsman's weapon and trashed him a couple distance away. Shocked and alarmed, the spearman called out to his brother in panic. Faced with the blessing of just the 8th level of the Yangshuo sword technique, neither of them had the power to resist. Ye Lin, really feeling the intensity of the 8th strike, grabbed his chest in pain. But as he approached the spearman with an evident killing intent, the guy questioned him about what kind of sword technique he used, and how it was even possible that it became more and more powerful with each strike. Under the reflection of the wind blade, Ye Lin's expression looked extremely cold as he replied that the guy didn't need to know. The sound of a sharp blade cutting flesh was heard as blood spurted out like a fountain. Ye Lin killed the guy with a casual slash of his sword, and as the guy's lifeless body drops to the ground, his brother let out a gut-wrenching roar, calling Ye Lin a devil. He wasn't human and will die a miserable death. Hearing this, Ye Lin gave him a cold look but said nothing. He activated the burning reincarnation curse spell and made a quick work of the guy, incinerating him into a charred steak as his wails got swallowed up by the flames. Ye Lin walked away with an aura of superiority, coldly reiterating his earlier statement that no one there could leave alive. He entered the huge building and wasted no time eliminating everyone on each floor. During this period, he encountered job changers above level 30, but facing a forbidden spellmaster who was impossible to kill, and whose curse spells flew all over the sky as soon as he attacked, even a job changer above level 30 was powerless. His life-for-life fighting style made it easier to eliminate job changers at level 30 or so. Of course, Ye Lin also paid a price. His body was covered with countless horrific wounds that were enough to kill him, and was pierced by countless weapons. He also had countless scars from ice and fire. But in those moments, Ye Lin was like a Shura who had crawled out of the underworld to claim their lives. He killed his way in, asking where Kensen was as he went along, but he soon ran into real trouble in the form of Zhai Shochi, a level 42 job changer who stood in front of him like a roadblock. This man was tall and strong like a towering mountain. His face was full of murderous intent, and his eyes flashed with amusement. He was holding a huge battle axe, and his whole body exuded a powerful aura that was bone-chilling. Zhai Shochi called Ye Lin a brave kid. After all, as a famous thug in the underground black market, it has been a long, long time since anyone dared to come to the underground black market alone to cause trouble. But looking at Ye Lin, whose body was covered with all kinds of knives, bullets, sticks, swords, and halberds, Zhai Shochi couldn't help but wonder why the kid wasn't dead yet. What was his secret? Ye Lin couldn't help but feel alert. He knew that this was a powerful opponent and he had to be careful in dealing with him. The axe alone looks like it weighs several hundred kilograms. Ye Lin assured Zhai Shochi that his secret will be revealed if he put down the axe. Of course, Zhai Shochi disagreed. If Ye Lin wasn't going to talk, then he will just have to kill him and study him slowly. Zhai Shochi rushed towards Ye Lin with the battle axe in hand, then produced a strike that literally shook the entire building and sent debris flying in every direction. Ye Lin gritted his teeth and dodged the attack by activating his burning reincarnation and fleeting dance. Facing Zhai Shochi, he did not dare to underestimate him in the slightest. Also, after casting 2 forbidden spells in succession, his entire condition was instantly brought to the best. Seeing this, Zhai Shochi scoffed and questioned Ye Lin how long he can last by burning his vitality in exchange for combat power. Suddenly, he blitzed towards Ye Lin with his battle axe, smashing down with so much force that Ye Lin was instantly thrown off the moment he raised his sword to block. He even spurted out a mouth full of fresh blood, and before he could get up, Zhai Shochi was upon him with a knee strike, landing squarely on Ye Lin's abdomen. However, Ye Lin still charged forward as if nothing had happened, swinging his sword wildly to stack up his attacks. But the few exchanged didn't have enough power as a force even more terrifying than before burst out from Zhai Shochi's battle axe and swung at Ye Lin, who was attacking him. Zhai Shochi's battle axe continued to hammer down, disarming the falling star warblade in Ye Lin's hand. Ye Lin's face was extremely solemn at this point. As expected, a level 42 job changer was indeed extraordinary. Even with the 99 layers of Yangsho sword technique combined with his burning reincarnation and fleeting dance, he was no match for Zhai Shochi. However, Ye Lin's advantage was his burning immortality. Zhai Shochi used his previous momentum to smash hard on Ye Lin's shoulder, producing a teeth-grinding sound of bones cracking. The sound of Ye Lin's shoulder bone and clavicle breaking under the attack made him spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body was trashed across the room like a cannonball, hitting the wall not far away heavily. Zhai Shochi approached Ye Lin's brutally battered figure, a bit disappointed. He was just warming up, but Ye Lin was already down for the count. Ye Lin agrees with this assessment. When fighting a close combat expert, his sword skills were severely lacking. Nonetheless, he still had his trump card, and Zhai Shochi should remember that he was the one who forced his hand. As Ye Lin slowly got up, the shoulder injury quickly recovered, along with any other internal injuries inflicted upon him. Because what happened next was so jaw-dropping that it even seemed excessive. Ye Lin did not hold back at all and attacked with all his might, sacrificing everything he could, and I mean everything. Liver, left lung, stomach, right kidney, gallbladder, duodenum, pancreas, spleen, large and small intestines, you name it, it's probably in there, just to summon the legendary world-destroying thunder. You see, forbidden spells were not omnipotent. So no matter how powerful a forbidden spell was, the person who casts it must be strong enough. Ye Lin's actual level was only 16. So naturally, if it was an ordinary thunder, it would definitely be difficult to cause too much damage to Zhai Shochi. However, this sacrifice made to summon the world-destroying thunder was expensive and enormous, so its power was obviously unfathomable. When the familiar chaos thunder came crashing down, Zhai Shochi's eyes widened with an overwhelming fear, and it didn't take a genius to know he was fucked in every way possible. Although he had his divine physique which could still resist a portion of the attack from the chaos thunder, it was definitely not even close to enough. The world-destroying thunder crushed into Zhai Shochi's body, wreaking havoc. It took less than a second for it to vaporize the upper half of his body to dust, leaving a hand on his battle axe and his lower half, which soon followed. Ye Lin's swordsmanship may not be good enough, but his chaos thunder summoning was a whole different matter. Now, if there was anything Zhai Shochi wanted to know, he can go ask the King of Hell. Groaning in pain, Ye Lin proceeded to the next floor, feeling a little lightheaded. Sacrificing too many organs at once really did a number on him. Meanwhile, in the presidential suite under the same building, Kensen, clearly unbothered, was leisurely having a fun time with one of his many women even though he'd been informed that there's been an intruder. He believes Zhai Shochi, being a mini-boss, was more than enough to deal with whichever nutcase dares to come to his domain, after the intruder happens to defeat all the men in the building, of course. Anyway, the important matter at hand was whether his little plaything wants to have a taste of something delicious he's got for her. The woman, Miss Chen, caught on what Kensen was implying and was fully on board. But before the two could get all naughty, Ye Lin barged into the suite like an enraged bull, and like a Kensen's personal cockblocker, he spared no time demanding where President Ji was. Pissed off, Kensen got up and approached the little brat, a bit baffled that he was able to make his way to him. Kensen asked where Zhai Shochi was, but it was clear that Ye Lin was done with the idle talk. With his sword in hand, he leaped high in the air and swung it down, declaring that his precious little pet was dead and he was next. Kensen just laughed at the sheer audacity of this little brat, and casually grabbed the sword with his bare hands. After all, he wasn't the underground king of Qingcheng for show, and there was a long list of people wanting to kill him, but unfortunately, Ye Lin wasn't worthy. Kensen then grabbed Ye Lin by the neck and spared no time exerting his dominance. He told Ye Lin to learn an important lesson to never fuck with him in his next life. Kensen activated a heavy power skill named the Breaking Gasp and crushed Ye Lin's throat without breaking a sweat. He drops Ye Lin's lifeless body to the floor without a backward glance, annoyed for wasting his time dealing with such worthless inconvenience. However, to his shock, the little fucker wasn't dead, but even had the energy to get back up. And on top of that, all the injuries on his body seems to have been healed somehow. Kensen questioned how it was even possible. Ye Lin was super dead. He made sure of it. On the other hand, Ye Lin just scoffed at Kensen's temper tantrum. Why would he be dead when he hadn't even had any fun yet? Ye Lin sacrificed his left eye and activated the curse spell, the Eyes of External Freeze. He froze Kensen's legs within an ice prison, and this freaked the hell out of the so-called underground king of Qingcheng. He questioned what kind of curse spell Ye Lin used and why he couldn't move at all. Obviously, Ye Lin ignored the question and asked one of his own. He wanted to know where President Ji was. Kensen refused to reveal where he was keeping President Ji as a hostage, and Ye Lin made him pay dearly for it. Activating his burning reincarnation, Ye Lin set the poor bastard's arms on fire, and the flames burned them wildly as he wails like a woman in labor. However, during Kensen's wailing session, a dull thud sounded as knees hit the floor behind Ye Lin. Miss Chen, pointing a loaded gun at the back of a tied-up President Ji, demanded that Ye Lin let his lover go. Otherwise, she will kill President Ji. Seeing this, Ye Lin casually remarked on how Miss Chen wants to be all righteous for her man. He extinguished the flames and suggested an exchange of hostages. Miss Chen immediately pointed the gun at Ye Lin the moment he started to slowly approach her. She warned Ye Lin not to come close or she will shoot. Ye Lin questioned Miss Chen if she didn't want to exchange hostages. Arrogant as always, Kensen stated that he didn't need a woman to save him. However, he still wanted to protect Miss Chen, so he told her to get out of there. But the damn woman didn't listen and suddenly pulled the trigger, firing 3 shots that hit Ye Lin squarely in the stomach, chest, and left shoulder. He drops to the floor as Chen rushed to Kensen's side. Kensen calls her a fool for not leaving like he told her. The little brat she just shot wasn't dead. This revelation shocked her greatly. And at the same time, Ye Lin had already gotten up and made his way to President Ji's side. He then casually used the Eyes of External Freeze curse spell and froze both hands of Miss Chen together with her gun. She couldn't hide her shock as the only thing fueling her fake bravado got neutralized real quick. And the moment Kensen pleaded for her, demanding Ye Lin come at him and leave her alone, his head was cleanly severed from his body. Ye Lin's blade flashed with a starlight, and Kensen's desperate pleas stopped abruptly as Ye Lin just coldly remarked that he was being noisy. The underground king of Qingcheng died with his eyes wide opened, and Miss Chen just stared at the scene in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. With tears in her eyes, she let out a scream. Ye Lin just straight up ignores her as he made his way to President Ji's side with an expressionless face. Miss Chen, in a defeated tone, questioned if Ye Lin plans on killing her too. Hearing this, Ye Lin just sighed, carried an unconscious President Ji on his shoulder and walked off. He told Miss Chen to not have such silly thoughts because he doesn't kill women, and if her lover hadn't kidnapped President Ji, he really wouldn't have been his enemy. He then tells her to leave the building. Miss Chen was speechless upon hearing this, and it's unclear whether she listened to Ye Lin and left the building, because shortly after cleaning house, Ye Lin incinerated the entire building with his hellfire, leaving no evidence which could be traced back to him. The entire black market was shrouded in karmic fire, turning into a sea of fire. And with that, the once largest sinful city in Qingqing officially came to an end. The very next day at the Ji family's residence, President Ji finally woke up after his treatment. Lying in bed with his whole body wrapped in bandages like a mummy, President Ji was fortunate enough to have his severed hands also reattached and healed. Ji Lingyu burst out in tears seeing his father finally awake. He thought he would never see him again. President Ji comforts his son, reassuring him not to worry. As long as he was still alive, the Ji family will be fine. Then, his gaze shifted to Ye Lin with evident doubts and curiosity. He was comatose during the whole incident and didn't know what really happened. President Ji wanted to know just how on earth Ye Lin rescued him. Ye Lin nervously scratched the back of his neck and replied that he wasn't very clear about the specifics of the situation either. The entire rescue mission was done by his good friend Ling Yi. He was the one who saved him from Kensen and burned down the entire black market. Upon hearing about this mysterious Ling Yi, President Ji, although grateful and lucky to still be alive, wondered where Ling Yi came from and why he had never heard of him. Ye Lin was not sure about Ling Yi's identity either, and given how he had only known of his existence for a short time, he doubts Ling Yi will reveal his identity to him. President Ji took the hint and asked no further questions. If Ye Lin doesn't want to talk about it, then this old man won't ask. But the most urgent matter was the college entrance exam. Ye Lin and his son should not delay. The two reassured President Ji not to worry. There was still 27 hours before the college entrance exams begins. And besides, they had prepare for the exams and will not disappoint him. But just then, 3 men in dark suits and dark glasses showed up at the villa. Invited inside, the 3 walked in confidently and disclosed that they were from the investigation bureau. Officer Huang took out an arrest warrant and presented it to Ye Lin, adding that he was suspected in the involvement of a major murder case in the city. They needed him to come with them to assist in the investigation. A visible bead of sweat trickled down Ye Lin's cheek. He didn't expect the investigation bureau to come so quickly. Nonetheless, it was too risky to openly resist arrest. So Ye Lin decided to go along with them first, then decide his next course of action as the situation develops. As they led Ye Lin out of the room, Ji Lingyu questioned the officers why they were arresting his boss. The officers remained silent as Ye Lin just casually stated that the two should remember to pick him up at the investigation bureau. President Ji reassured Ye Lin not to be afraid. He will find the best lawyer who can definitely get him out. Meanwhile, as the scene shifted the Zhuge family's villa, Zhuge Qianqing knocked and informed her daughter at the door that there has been another news about Ling Yi, the guy she has been damn near obsessing over. Hearing this, Zhuge Nini got all excited like she'd received the best news of her life. Her father had to even remind her to change clothes first before heading downstairs, where Officer Huang from the investigation bureau was waiting. As Zhuge Nini heads to her closet to change, her father left her room with a heavy sigh. He closed the door and began to cough violently. Taking out a key from his pocket, Zhuge Qianqing, with a knowing look in his eyes, stated that he didn't expect Ye Lin to be able to take out Kensen single-handedly. But at the moment, what's got Zhuge Qianqing all serious was that he didn't have much time anymore. Seriously, when will Ye Lin be willing to take up on his offer and ask him for help? He wondered, and apparently it seems Ye Lin's secret was not that airtight after all. Meanwhile, at the Qingcheng Investigation Bureau stood a tall, magnificent and imposing building, designed to be intimidating. Inside one of its special solitary cells built by the masters of material science and architecture, it was a pipe dream to think of breaking out by force. Ye Lin sat in the only chair in the cell as the iron door slowly opened, revealing a man with his face concealed by the shadow casted. Ye Lin calmly stated that until his lawyer comes, he won't say anything, even though he'd guessed that President Ji's connections and lawyer probably won't be enough given the number of people that died. The guy, clearly annoyed, walked in, and before Ye Lin could utter another word, he was grabbed by his jacket and lifted up in the air. The guy demanded Ye Lin tells him where that thing was. Obviously, Ye Lin was totally clueless. He questioned through his ragged breathing, wanting to know what the guy was referring to because he sure as hell didn't know. But this answer only enraged the guy who thought Ye Lin was playing dumb. He threatened to gouge Ye Lin's eyes out if he continues with the act. With little effort, he slammed him directly into the wall. Ye Lin felt like he'd been hit by a truck. It was then that the guy, in a cold tone, explained that Ye Lin should hand over the key. Kensen died by Ye Lin's hands, so naturally, the key must be with him. Back then, Ye Lin did not take anything from the underground black market in order to avoid leaving any trace or evidence. So even if there was a key, he burned it to ashes. However, he couldn't show any abnormality, otherwise this guy would definitely take ruthless action against him, which would either expose the secret of his immortality or be blind for the rest of his life. Since the guy didn't want to hear the truth, then he will play along. He told the guy that the key was with him but not with him. And if the guy continues with his ruthless behavior, he will make sure he never finds it. Originally, Ye Lin planned to stay in the investigation bureau until the college entrance exams, but now it seems that the place he thought was the safest was actually the Dragon's Den. He never imagined that the deputy director of the investigation bureau was actually connected to Kensen. Realizing this, he still had the balls to demand that the guy takes him out of the investigation bureau before anything else. He gritted his teeth when the guy grabs him by the hair and gave him a solid punch on his left cheek. Ye Lin spat out fresh blood as he silently comes to terms that the officer had no martial or moral ethics. The guy coldly asks if Ye Lin was sure he wants to leave the investigation bureau at this time, because he will become a wanted criminal and definitely won't even be able to take the college entrance exams. Ye Lin pursed his lips. It seems as if this was really a dead end with no chance of breaking out of it at all. In his opinion, the strength of the tall and thin man in front of him was even more terrifying than Kensen. Whether he fought or fled, he obviously wouldn't stand a chance. On the floor, he raised his hand for a timeout. He wants to make a call. The guy took out his phone and stated that if Ye Lin had been this cooperative from the start, then he wouldn't have to suffer. Ye Lin took the phone and started dialing. Inwardly, he vowed to pay back this grudge tenfold. 10 minutes later, someone walked inside the cell, and this person turned out to be none other than Zhuge Nini's father, Zhuge Changxing. The moment he entered the cell, he told the officer to pound sand with his flattering. Anyway, he brought the key he so desperately wanted. In Zhuge Changxing's hands was the key, and he spared no pleasantries as he handed it over. But on the way out, the officer wondered why he was helping the little brat. Zhuge Changxing just replied that it was none of his business. He'd already given him the key and their deal was done. So with that, the guy apologized and made his exit. Ye Lin, although excited that his interrogation was over, wondered how Kensen's key appeared in the possession of Zhuge Changxing out of nowhere. Did he just entangled himself in some conspiracy? Ye Lin just feigned an innocent demeanor and thanked Zhuge Changxing. If it weren't for his help, he would have been in danger. But Zhuge Changxing wasn't buying that bullshit act. He straight up explained that he saved Ye Lin for his own selfish reasons and not for the goodness of his heart. Besides, if the secret of his immortality was made public, all the powerful people in the entire daxia, and probably overseas, will come to kill him. This revelation was like a sledgehammer hitting Ye Lin in his freaking face. Zhuge Changxing actually knew about his immortality. What should he do? Should he kill him? After all, he'd never told anyone because he knew very well that an innocent man was guilty of possessing a treasure. At such a close distance, if he was to take advantage of Zhuge Changxing's unpreparedness and summon the Chaos Thunder with its strongest power, he should be able to severely injure or even kill him. But then what? What should he do after killing Zhuge Changxing? Feigning confusion, Ye Lin tried to play dumb, but Zhuge Changxing wasn't buying it. Just now, there was a flash of killing intent in Ye Lin's eyes. Was it directed at him? It seems that he guessed right. Ye Lin was indeed immortal. Just when Ye Lin was considering whether to take action, Zhuge Changxing continued confidently. As expected, if you eliminate all the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how unbelievable it is the truth. Ye Lin had an immortal body, yet he was so weak. It seems that the legends were true. Ye Lin asked what Zhuge Changxing wanted from him. And upon hearing this, Zhuge Changxing replied with a question of his own, wanting to know if Ye Lin was willing to be his disciple. Hearing this, Ye Lin was truly puzzled. He didn't even know what he needed to do as a disciple, and how would it even benefit Zhuge Changxing anyway. Zhuge Changxing gave a slight cough and explained that he didn't have much time left, and wants to take in a disciple he can entrust some tasks before he takes a permanent nap. Curious, Ye Lin wanted to know what could be so important. Zhuge Changxing then took out a key exactly the same as the one he just handed over and gave it to Ye Lin. Ye Lin was stunned. Could it be that there were two keys? As if seeing Ye Lin's confusion, Zhuge Changxing explained with a smile that he gave a fake one to the officer. It was made with great effort by an old blacksmith friend of his. Anyway, the key was the real ancient key of the apocalypse. Ye Lin couldn't help but look at the key in his hand. The whole key was made of bronze and had spots of rust on it, but it contained an ancient and mysterious aura. You see, this world originally had no monsters or job changers, until the day the Gate of Apocalypse descended, and 7 ancient artifacts of origin fell out from behind the Gate of Apocalypse and scattered around the world. Each of them had completely different abilities. The first 7 people who obtained the ancient artifact of origin became an extremely powerful forbidden existence in their own rights. After the Gate of Apocalypse opened, changes began to occur in the entire world. Humans were able to change their jobs, and all kinds of strange and powerful monsters and copies appeared one after another. During this period, countless horrific wars broke out between humans and monsters, and between humans themselves. Even the ancient artifacts of origin were shattered. Now, the existence of the ancient artifacts of origin was just a legend. And this ancient key of apocalypse is the key to opening the door of apocalypse. Zhuge Qianxing asked again if Ye Lin was willing to be his disciple and help him. Ye Lin thought for a moment. Now that Zhuge Qianxing knows his secret, it was not like he had a choice. Ye Lin accepted to be Zhuge Qianxing's disciple, but he was not sure he could accomplish the task his master just asked. Zhuge Qianxing laughed and placed a hand on Ye Lin's shoulder. When did he become so humble? With his current strength, if he enters the Supreme Academy to further his studies, his future will be immeasurable. But before anything else, there was one more thing Zhuge Qianxing wanted to entrust to Ye Lin. What is it? Ye Lin asked with evident curiosity in his eyes. Zhuge Qianxing gave a slightly awkward smile and wants Ye Lin to take good care of Zhuge Nini after he dies. Ye Lin should protect her from getting bullied. Upon hearing such a request, Ye Lin was a little taken aback. He even wondered if there was anyone who could actually bully that female Tyrannosaurus-like daughter of this cunning middle-aged man. He scratched the back of his head nervously and tried to reassure his new mentor that he will definitely live long, possibly passing a 100-year-old mark. Zhuge Qianxing just laughed at this words of encouragement as he left the solitary cell, with Ye Lin following in tow. Ye Lin might not be aware, but he's quite older than he looks, which has many advantages if he was being honest. Anyway, Ye Lin was still young and his strength can be cultivated slowly, so there was no rush. What matters at present was the college entrance exams. He needed to get good results, and apparently so does her daughter. A while later, as the scene shifted to the Zhuge family's villa, Zhuge Nini was stunned to see the person she hated the most in her home. And to make the matter even worse, she just found out that her father had taken Ye Lin as his disciple. To her, this was impossible and only made her furious. How could her father accept a coward like Ye Lin as his apprentice? It seems that her classmate was not only a coward, but also full of lies. She insisted Ye Lin leaves her family's home, but obviously, her words doesn't carry that much weight. Ye Lin just casually folded his arms and was too lazy to explain anything to this spoiled princess. He would gladly leave if her father wants him to. After all, it wasn't like he wanted this arrangement anyway. If Zhuge Nini had any problem with him being there, she can go ask her father. Wondering why her little princess was throwing a fit the moment she got home, Zhuge Qianxing came downstairs. But the moment Zhuge Nini saw her father, she gave him a helpless look and asked anxiously why Ye Lin of all her classmates was doing inside their home. He was a coward and full of lies. He should hurry up and kick him out because there was no way he was his disciple, right? Zhuge Qianxing replied her daughter that he did indeed accept Ye Lin as his disciple. So her classmate was telling her the truth. But before Zhuge Qianxing could explain the reason for his decision, Zhuge Nini, incredulous, cut her father off and asked if he was crazy. Was he getting old and confused? How can he want such a person as his apprentice? And even if Ye Lin's character was put aside, what of his talent? Ye Lin was a forbidden spellmaster who cannot live past the age of 25. So what could her father possibly teach him within this limited time? He was going to die very soon anyway. As smart as Zhuge Qianxing was, he didn't know what to say without revealing any of Ye Lin's secrets. He told her daughter to pipe down with such harsh words. But it wasn't like Ye Lin cared anyway. And besides, he added that Ye Lin was actually powerful and was the Ling Yi she had been looking for. Hadn't she figured it out that Ye Lin and Ling Yi were the same person all along? Zhuge Qianxing thought that her daughter would change his opinion of Ye Lin after hearing this. But unexpectedly, Zhuge Nini just sneered and glanced at Ye Lin with cold eyes. She never thought that her classmate was not only cowardly and full of lies, but also a fraud. He can even fool her father. But she knows damn well what she saw on that day. Ye Lin ran away like a coward he was when she needed help. And if it wasn't for Ling Yi showing up and saving her, she would probably be dead. How could these two people be the same person? They look and behave nothing alike. You see, for people like Zhuge Nini, once they determine something and becomes obsessed over it, it's almost impossible to get them to realize otherwise even when it smacked them in the face. As Zhuge Nini walked away, she promised to find the real Ling Yi and expose Ye Lin's hypocritical mask. Ye Lin walked over and asked Zhuge Qianxing whether he should follow her daughter and protect her from a distance. Zhuge Qianxing smiled bitterly and shook his head. There was no need. No one would dare to touch her in Qingqing. Also, Ye Lin shouldn't take her daughter's words to heart. She was not bad by nature, but a little paranoid. Zhuge Qianxing apologized on Zhuge Nini's behalf. This was also his fault for usually doting on her too much. Anyway, with the college entrance exams a few hours away, Zhuge Qianxing took out a wooden box and handed it to Ye Lin. Ye Lin opened the wooden box and found a mask as thin as a cicada's wing. Looking at the mask in the wooden box, Ye Lin felt his scalp tingling. This was not a mask at all, it was clearly a human face, a lifelike face, as if it had just been peeled off. Zhuge Qianxing called the mask the illusion face, a little item made by his old forger friend. As long as Ye Lin puts on the illusion face, he can become another person entirely, with both his voice and aura also becoming completely different. With this, if his disciple wants to attack with all his strength in the future, he can just put on the illusion face and go all out without the fear of being exposed. Ye Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. Although this item did not increase his combat power, it could indeed be of great use to him at critical moments. He thanked Zhuge Qianxing, and in that moment, Ye Lin felt that being a disciple wasn't so bad after all. The very next morning, which happens to be the day of the college entrance exams, Ye Lin walked into Qingqing Academy and came to the waiting area, an open field where all the candidates had gathered to be taken to the exit of the city gate by the school leaders. As soon as Ji Lingyu saw Ye Lin, he rushed over excitedly, relieved that his boss made it. Ever since Ye Lin saved his father, Ji Lingyu had fully and openly accepted Ye Lin as his boss and true friend. He also heard from his father that Ye Lin had become Zhuge Qianxing's disciple. To the public, Zhuge Qianxing had taken the blame for Kenson's demise and the destruction of his underground black market. When Zhuge Nini heard this a few distance away, she snorted coldly and glared at Ye Lin. She truly believed that her father was deceived by her classmate. Without a doubt, Ye Lin was just a fraud and a despicable guy. As soon as Zhuge Nini said this, the faces of the crowd changed, and the looks they gave Ye Lin became strange. Originally, they were envious of him for being a disciple of Zhuge Qianxing, who was a powerful astrologer and a famous figure in Daxia Kingdom. But now, based on what his daughter just implied, it seems that there was more to what they previously knew. Ji Lingyu frowned and pointed an accusatory finger at Zhuge Nini, questioning if she had any evidence to back up what she just said. She was not allowed to slander his boss without any proof. Also, how can she even openly disrespect her own father for choosing an apprentice? Was she more insightful than her father? For the first time, Zhuge Nini was put on the spot, but she still didn't back down. She may not have any evidence at present, but that doesn't mean Ye Lin wasn't a fraud who stole Ling Yi's name and was actually pretending to be him. Ye Lin should just wait, his fraudulent days are numbered. Once she finds Ling Yi during the exams, she will expose his true identity to the public and everything will be revealed. Just then, the transportation vehicles arrived. More than a dozen buses were neatly lined up in a row and parked in front of the gate of Qingqing Academy. These buses would take them to the city gate. The moment Principal Gao alighted, he welcomed and congratulated everyone for becoming a powerful job changer. Whether they can enter a good university will determine their future prospects. The rules of the college entrance exams were the same as in previous years. And although this exams was important, it was not worth their lives, which should always be their top priority. With that said, Principal Gao hopes each student gets good results. And the crowd immediately cheered and promised to do their best. They got inside the bus and arrived at the city gate half an hour later. A huge city wall with a massive gate dozens of meters high and wide enough for several buses to pass through simultaneously. It was majestic and solemn, with intricate lines and patterns carved on it. Every stroke looked deep and mysterious. Under the sunlight, the outline of the city wall was clearly visible in the sky, which made most of the students do a double take when they saw it for the first time. This was the Great Wall that separates Qingcheng from the wilderness, keeping all those powerful and terrifying monsters outside the city gate. Buses from several other high schools also arrived one after another. 10 minutes later, all the graduating students from the various high schools in Qingqing alighted from their respective buses and gathered at the city gate. The moment Ye Lin got out from the bus, he reminded Ji Lingyu to follow him and stick to their original plan. A guard stood in front of the crowd and reminded the students that the entrance to the exams was outside the city gate. Once the city gates are open, all the candidates needed to cross about 10 kilometers of uninhabited wilderness to reach the entrance to the college entrance main exams. If any of them encounter fierce monsters, how they can survive depends on their strength. However, if they can't resist any of these dangers during this period, they should remember to give up immediately. With a creaking sound, the huge city gate slowly opened to both sides like two walls, and as soon as the city gate was opened, many candidates rushed out impatiently, including Ye Lin and Ji Lingyu. In order to defeat Ye Lin and win a bet she made with her father, Zhuge Nini was among the first batch of candidates to rush ahead, as some of the candidates stayed at the back and waited quietly, not in a hurry at all. The first batch of candidates rushing out may not necessarily reach the entrance faster, but they will definitely encounter ferocious monsters sooner. Several principals of Qingqing stood on top of the city wall, looking at this group of candidates who were radiating vitality like the rising sun. One of them issued a challenge, which was to guess how many students from Qingqing will be admitted to Daxia College this year. There were 5 last year, so another guessed that there will be at least 7 this year. Apart from anything else, the 2 SSS-level students of Principal Gao will definitely be admitted to Daxia College unless something unexpected happens. Principal Gao stroked his short beard and laughed with pride, thanking Principal Wang for his insightful observation. Back on the open field outside the city wall, the group were greeted by a foul smell emanated from monsters. This stench was mixed with the smell of fermented blood. Many candidates even vomited when they smelled it for the first time. Suddenly, a roar of a monster resounded nearby, and with that sound, a giant lizard more than 3 meters tall, covered with hard red scales, suddenly appeared. It had bloodthirsty eyes, and its long tongue constantly moved in and out of its mouth. This was a level 11 bloodthirsty demon lizard. Most of the candidates were immediately frightened and panicked, running around in all directions, trying to avoid the monster. The bloodthirsty demon lizard was incredibly fast, so it could cover a distance of several meters with one leap. It caught up with several fleeing candidates in the blink of an eye. Its claws were as sharp as steel knives, and as it tore through the fearful crowd, blood splattered everywhere with just a single swing of its claws. Sharp screams echoed throughout the field. The principals on top of the city wall seemed extremely calm, staring at the candidates running away or being scared silly. They were a bit disappointed that their students were scared of just a level 11 bloodthirsty demon lizard, and started comparing them to subsequent years. With so many people, if everyone were to use a skill, the bloodthirsty demon lizard could be bombarded to death with an overwhelming attack. Anyway, it was in this moment that Ye Lin rushed towards the bloodthirsty demon lizard with the falling star warblade in his hand. He activated the Yangshuo sword technique, and 4 bright sword slash flashed in succession. The bloodthirsty demon lizard that had scared everyone and made them flee everywhere had its limbs cut off, turning it into a wriggling flesh worm. The principals were stunned upon seeing such a terrifying sword, which was at least a rare level equipment, and was even more amazed to see Ye Lin, the Forbidden Spellmaster, at just level 16 with a rare piece of equipment. He easily dealt with a level 11 bloodthirsty demon lizard. However, they were also curious as to why Ye Lin didn't kill the monster. Just when everyone was confused, Ye Lin calmly called Ji Lingyu over. Ji Lingyu rushed over excitedly with a sword in hand. Obviously, the bloodthirsty demon lizard had no ability to resist at all, and was killed by Ji Lingyu without any trouble. The two were rewarded with 40 experience points each for their combined effort to kill the 11th level bloodthirsty demon lizard. Everyone was stunned at the outrageous scene before them. They now understood why Ye Lin only cut off the limbs of the monster but did not kill it. Ye Lin had become Ji Lingyu's tool for leveling up. In that moment, most of the candidates had an impulse to rush up and hug Ye Lin's thighs tightly, and beg him if he needs another lackey. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, Ye Lin and Ji Lingyu did not rush into the college entrance examination training hall, but swept all the way to the right. Meanwhile, Zhuge Nini watched the two nearby with a calculative look. Since the experience points will be shared if a candidates choose to form a team, she was sure she could surpass Ye Lin this time around. In her opinion, the reason why she was crushed by Ye Lin in the novice secret realm was purely because she was not serious enough. But she would not give Ye Lin a second chance. Whenever Ye Lin encountered any monster on the road, he was able to deal with it after a few sword slashes, leaving it incapacitated for Ji Lingyu, who has been following behind and cooperating very tacitly. When any of the monsters was seriously injured, he would go up and deliver the final blow with his sword. So far, the two had teamed up and kill a 12th level chimera with 50 experience points, an 11th level seahorse warrior with 40 experience points, and a level 13 skeleton archer with 60 experience points. Under Ye Lin's leadership, Ji Lingyu's level improved very quickly. He reached level 8 in a short while. Ji Lingyu was ecstatic. From now on, Ye Lin didn't need to say anything. He will gladly be his loyal lackey. At this rate, he would be able to reach at least level 12, or even level 13 before the sun sets. The entrance to the college entrance exams will be open till sunset, so they can farm and level up as long as they arrive before the closing time. Ye Lin glanced around and there were obviously fewer monsters left. He told Ji Lingyu not to get too excited. There aren't many monsters near the city wall, so they had to go deeper into the forest. Upon hearing this, Ji Lingyu pointed out the obvious question. If they go deeper, they will encounter monsters of level 20 or even level 30, right? Ye Lin agreed with this assessment, and he was confident that he could handle a level 20 monster without any issue. But they will definitely have to run away if they encounter a level 30 monster. Ye Lin held the sword and led Ji Lingyu deeper into the wild. Ji Lingyu wasn't the only one who wants to upgrade his level. Ye Lin also wants that as well. After all, his goal was the Supreme Academy. Meanwhile, as the scene shifted back to the top of the city wall, Principal Gao had a frown on his face. He wasn't particularly pleased with the young curse master's decision to enter deep into the wild with Ye Lin. In his opinion, Ye Lin was acting way too reckless. With his level, it was a foregone conclusion that he would be admitted to Dasha College. So what on earth did he want to achieve? His fellow principal tried to reassure him not to worry. There were already invigilators surrounding the area, so no major accidents could happen. Hearing this made Principal Gao feel just a little bit at ease, even though his right eyelid kept twitching wildly. He didn't know why, but he'd suddenly had a bad feeling. He just hopes his friend is right. As the scene cuts back to Ye Lin and Ye Lin along the way, they've killed several different kinds of monsters, but none had been any real threat. Ye Lin didn't even need to release other forbidden spells. With just the Yangshuo sword technique, he had been able to deal with every monster they've encountered, which were all below level 20. At most, it would just be a matter of a few sword slashes. Ye Lin followed behind him and had leveled up to 9. But on the other hand, Ye Lin was still at level 16. They soon encountered 2 level 20 monsters. Ye Lin warns Ye Lin to be careful. One wrong move from him and any of these 2 monsters could kill him instantly. Ye Lin promised to stay clear so Ye Lin shouldn't worry. He valued his life too much, so he will leave everything to him. The Yangshuo sword technique cannot be used indefinitely, and had already consumed too much of Ye Lin's lifespan. So he decided to sacrifice an organ to summon the Chaos Thunder. Since the enormity of the Chaos Thunder depends entirely on the degree of the sacrifice, sacrificing just an organ was enough to deal with the 2 level 20 monsters. Amazed, Ye Lin saw the charred state of the monsters and asked Ye Lin if this was how he had been killing them. Although it was efficient and can kill a level 20 monster instantly, it seems way too brutal, doesn't he think so? Ye Lin simply replied that this level of brutality was nothing, and there were even more brutal things to come. Just when they were about to proceed forward, a man wearing an invigilator's uniform suddenly appeared in front of them and blocked their way. He told the 2 they could not leave the exam's perimeter without permission. It was too dangerous. Hearing this, Ye Lin frowned slightly but had no issue with this restriction. However, just as he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped short, staring at something intently behind the invigilator. With a serious expression, he anxiously told the guy to look behind him. But the invigilator snorted coldly when he heard this, without even turning his head. He questioned Ye Lin if he was trying to trick him into turning back so they can run off to the restricted area. If he wasn't mistaken, Ye Lin and Ye Lin had arranged to meet up with someone outside the exam perimeter to help them level up. The invigilator advised them to give up on this ridiculous idea. He had been an invigilator for 20 years and no candidate had ever managed to fool him. Now, the 2 should hurry up and leave, or he will consider them for violating the rules and cancel their exam. Ye Lin still insisted that the guy should turn around as a huge shadow was cast on the 3. And before the invigilator could get any more words out, a low growl suddenly sounded from behind him. The invigilator's face changed the moment he finally turned around and saw a huge monster which was a level 33 goblin warrior, who had suddenly appeared behind the guy at some point. The goblin warrior was 4 meters tall, covered in hard armor, and holding a huge mace. It swung its massive mace on the poor guy, who narrowly managed to react in time to avoid the attack. However, he was trashed more than 10 meters away like a cannonball. Ye Lin and Ye Lin, on the other hand, evaded the attack without any difficulty. Ye Lin was so frightened that his face turned pale, and the moment Ye Lin suggested he run while he leads the monster away, Ye Lin replied that it won't work. A level 33 monster, unless it reveals its immortality and attacks with all its strength, Ye Lin cannot defeat it. They should rather run away and leave the injured invigilator to handle the monster. Ye Lin was already very upset. He had told the invigilator several times to turn back, but this guy just wouldn't listen. And now, Ye Lin, out of concern, didn't want to listen to his instructions either. He's even faster than him, so what will he do if the goblin warrior decides to come after them instead? Ye Lin kicked Ye Lin on the butt, which sent him flying. And in that moment, the invigilator reappeared. Just as he was thinking of how difficult it was going to be to deal with the goblin warrior without being exposed, the huge mace loomed a few inches away from turning him into a meat paste. Ye Lin only sacrificed his appendix and a piece of large intestine in exchange for 3 times the agility, and effortlessly evaded the huge mace with his fleeting dance. The invigilator struggled to stand properly, and with a pale face, he instructed Ye Lin to leave the goblin warrior to him. He had already sent out a distress signal, and he doesn't plan on letting any student get hurt under his watch. Before the guy could insist on his earlier demand for the 2 to leave that place, the huge and heavy mace was upon him in an instant. Ye Lin had to save this blockhead for the 2nd time, and at this point he'd passed out. The invigilator had already been seriously injured by the goblin warrior's sneak attack, so the fact that he was still alive was a sign of his strong will. Fortunately, the distress signal had been received, and in that moment, 2 other invigilators suddenly appeared and rushed over to subdue the monster. Ye Lin observed everything under a calculative gaze. They instructed him to stay away to avoid any accidental injury, and he obediently obliged. He also told the 2 that their colleague had been injured, so he would carry him away from there. The 2 invigilators immediately started to deal with the goblin warrior. Under the siege of the 2, the goblin warrior had no ability to resist and was completely suppressed. At a safe distance and under the cover of the smoke and dust created, Ye Lin took out the illusion face from the wooden box and placed it on his face. The thin mask fit his face shape perfectly, and after putting it on, he perfectly turned into the middle-aged invigilator who was out cold beside him. He even had an identical injury the guy had on his face. Then, he stripped the guy of his uniform and quickly put them on. At this time, the goblin warrior was struggling to break free from his restraints. Although the 2 invigilators were barely suppressing that monster, it was also obvious that they've managed to seriously injure it. The lady told her colleague to kill the evil creature already. Its death should suffice for daring to disrupt the college entrance exams. Just when he was about to act, Ye Lin, now disguised as an invigilator, offered his assistance. The monster owes him its life anyway. Facing the level 33 goblin warrior, Ye Lin did not hold back at all. He activated the forbidden spell, the eternal stem element. Golden energy suddenly formed and gathered in his palm, then condensed into a golden spear exuding an ancient and mysterious aura. Ye Lin raised his hand, grasped the spear, and threw it directly at the goblin warrior's head with a whistling sound. The golden spear obliterated the head of the seriously injured goblin warrior, killing it instantly. He received a reward of 220 experience points for killing a level 33 goblin warrior, and an item named the Symbiosis Talisman also dropped. Ye Lin was a little surprised, because the chances of an item dropping after killing a monster was extremely low. The 2 invigilators weren't particularly pleased with Ye Lin's involvement in killing the goblin warrior. They didn't fight the monster and subjugate it just for their fellow colleague to suddenly swoop in and steal their kill. It was simply outrageous. The guy questioned who the hell Ye Lin was, and which department he was from. How can he just steal his colleague's kill like that? Ye Lin simply replied that his act of kindness didn't warrant his name or info. The 2 should just call him a kind man and shouldn't beat themselves up. So with that, he walks off. The guy was still pissed off about the entire encounter when the lady told him to forget about it for now. They needed to maintain order until the exams was over. Then they can settle the score with him. Obviously, Ye Lin wasn't the least bit bothered when he overheard the 2. After all, they wouldn't be able to find him once he takes off the mask. Ye Lin's current location on the map's layout showed he was still deep within the uninhabited wilderness, with just about 1/3 of the journey to cover. He returned the clothes and exam certification badge to the unconscious invigilator, then changed into his usual outfit as he keeps reeling about how great the illusion face mask was. The item drop was also incredible when used properly. The Symbiosis Talisman can only be used on 2 job changers with a level difference of less than 10. They're supposed to interlock their fingers to activate it. Once activated, the experience points gained by hunting monsters will be completely shared by the 2 for the next 6 hours. Although the Symbiosis Talisman was a single-use item that binds to only one person, Ye Lin's eyes lit up. This was the same as getting double experience. He had originally planned to abandon Ye Lin after he reached level 10, but with the Symbiosis Talisman, he could still get full experience points even if Ye Lin kills a monster. In that moment, he heard someone frantically yelling to be saved. This person was none other than Ye Lin, who was being chased by a level 13 Anubis soldier. The Anubis soldier was clad in a dark shadow with a huge scythe as its weapon. The moment it closed in on Ye Lin, the Anubis soldier swung the massive scythe at its target. But before the long curved blade could cleave Ye Lin in two, he was suddenly whisked away as the swift sound of the scythe cuts through the air. The toe even got embedded in the ground with a loud puff of dusty smoke. Ye Lin's whole body trembled for a moment, and his pupils shrank sharply. When he saw Ye Lin, he was instantly overjoyed, and also glad he was okay. He asked where the goblin warrior was. Ye Lin told him not to worry, the goblin warrior has been killed by the other two invigilators. Ye Lin reached out with the symbiosis talisman in hand, and told Ye Lin not to move his hand under any circumstance. He interlocked his fingers with Ye Lin's, clasping them tightly. Ye Lin completely misunderstood the situation as a blush creeps on his cheeks. No wonder Ye Lin didn't like any of the maids when he was at his villa. So this is what his boss likes? Ye Lin was struggling to comprehend this when Ye Lin snapped him out of his thoughts. When he was done using the symbiosis talisman, Ye Lin was stunned for a moment when realization dawned on him. Looking at Ye Lin in surprise and suspicion, he cursed loudly and told him to scram. Seriously, What the hell was he spacing out for at a time like this? Even the Anubis soldier on the opposite side seemed stunned, trying hard to comprehend what was happening. Ye Lin unsheathed his sword and slashed at the Anubis soldier, killing it in one swift motion. Only the scythe was left on the spot. Under the effect of the symbiotic talisman, Ye Lin and Ji Lingyu both gained 130 experience points. Ji Lingyu was overjoyed, amazed at how incredible the symbiotic talisman was. Where did Ye Lin get this item, because it was a treasure that money couldn't buy? Anyway, now that the symbiotic talisman was in effect, Ji Lingyu should leave and hunt monsters by himself. Because Ye Lin sure as hell ain't gonna hunt monsters with someone who has such disgusting thoughts. Ye Lin couldn't even look in Ji Lingyu's direction. Ji Lingyu explained that it was just a misunderstanding. He's actually a straight dude. However, Ye Lin wasn't having it. He told him to stop following him and scram. They needed to level up on their own to maximize the effect of the shared experience. Ji Lingyu reluctantly agreed with this assessment, but he did inform Ye Lin that there weren't many monsters he could deal with alone. Ye Lin was already aware of this but still left without any hesitation. Ji Lingyu just need to stay alive. With invigilators blocking the periphery, the students did not encounter any monsters above level 25. Ye Lin used his fleeting dance to move through the uninhabited wilderness at an extremely fast pace. And with his falling star warblade and the Yangsho sword technique, he started a massacre. He did not need to use other forbidden spells. Just the Yangsho sword technique combined with the 300 points of strength added by the falling star warblade was enough to make him dominate the entire exams. He was also mindful not to do anything too conspicuous. When he encountered a monster of a lower level than him, he would kill it with one strike. When he encountered a monster of a higher level than him, he would pretend to fight with it and then kill it with 2 to 4 strikes depending on the level. He suffered a lot of injuries during this period, but under the cover of the healing skills of the twin yin-yang bracelets, he directly used his immortal body to recover without any suspicion. Even under the presence of other students, he continued to kill monsters and used his immortal recovery. While other students run for their lives when facing monsters above level 15, Ye Lin did the opposite. He even charged in against a level 20 Minotaur which could kill him in an instant. He was actually excited that the Minotaur and any other monster of higher level was being left like a plague. Ji Lingyu on the other side was stunned, because from the beginning of the exams till now, his level has been rising rapidly. He knew without a reasonable doubt that his boss on the other side must have been killing monsters indiscriminately like crazy, because under the effect of the symbiotic talisman, their experience points were obviously shared. Meanwhile, as the scene shifted back to Principal Gao and the other important figures of Qingqing, they were currently watching Ye Lin's battle with the level 20 Minotaur. Although they've seen some strong candidates who choose to brush up their levels before entering the teleportation gate of the college entrance exams, this was the first time someone had actively searched and chased monsters relentlessly to annihilate. Principal Gao had a regrettable expression on his face. He was sure if only Ye Lin wasn't a forbidden spellcaster, the city of Qingqing would have had another peerless genius. Seriously, a job changer who can sweep away monsters in the uninhabited wilderness would have surely been a powerful existence who could suppress any opponent as long as he grows up. But a forbidden spellmaster would never live past the age of 25. His fellow principal told him to look on the bright side. Since all the monsters inside the test area were almost killed by Ye Lin, he'd actively made sure the number of candidates from Qingqing taking the main exams this year had increased significantly. At this time at the city's gate, the students who waited patiently for the eager candidates to clear the outskirt forest looked at the empty field outside the city's wall with smug expressions on their faces. A young man who was waving a fan even grinned and comments on the benefits of leaving the city at this point. Once the monsters had been dealt with by those who rushed out quickly, they can leave much more easily. The entire journey from the city gate to the teleportation gate of the main exams was 10 kilometers. They had already walked halfway and had not run into any monster. Now, they just need to hurry and hope they don't encounter anything unexpected. Ye Lin, on the other side, was done hunting monsters when he failed to spot a single monster in sight. He decided to head inside the teleportation gate. Although his level was now at 18, he was a bit disappointed he couldn't get to level 20 before the main exams. Anyway, the portal for the college entrance examination was like a huge gate of light, quietly suspended in the sky, emitting a soft light. As he approached the portal, he could feel a mysterious force fluctuating. It was the fluctuation of space magic, which could instantly teleport anyone to another place. Ye Lin stepped in, and the scene in front of him disintegrated. When everything came back into view, he had appeared in a huge bluestone square. 10 towering stone pillars stand around the bluestone square, each of which is engraved with ancient runes, revealing a sense of vicissitudes and mystery. In the center of the square, there was a huge stone tablet with the words, College Entrance Examination Training Ground, largely engraved on it. The handwriting was simple and ancient. Ye Lin looked around and saw that the square was crowded with so many people. When Ji Lingyu saw Ye Lin, he rushed over, all excited, and even tried to hug him. Ye Lin immediately pushed him away with disgust. But Ji Lingyu didn't care. He was so excited that he was incoherent. His current level was 15. Ye Lin would always be his one and only dear boss. He was just so awesome. If nothing unexpected happens with his current level, it was almost certain that he will be admitted to Daxia College. A while later, Zhuge Nini appeared there with a gloomy expression. Her current level was 14, so she thought she was only 2 levels short when compared with Ye Lin. Anyway, it wasn't a big deal because she could make up for it with her skills and abilities. As time passed, the sun cast its last rays of light, and the teleportation gate was closed completely. At the same time, hundreds of invigilators appeared in every corner of the square, monitoring the movements of all candidates in there. As a middle-aged man appeared silently in front of the stone tablet in the center of the bluestone square, he ordered everyone to pipe down. He then warmly welcomed all the candidates to the 886th college entrance examination. He was the chief examiner, Lin Yuan. His tone wasn't loud, but everyone in the bluestone square could hear him clearly, and his words seemed to directly resonate with the candidates. He confirmed what the examinees already knew, that the outskirt forest was just an entrance pass to the final exams, and only those who survived the journey and made their way there were allowed to take the final test. Anyway, the college entrance exams was divided into 2 parts, the comprehensive ability assessment and the ring battle, which will be carried out within the day. The comprehensive ability assessment has a total of 10 stages, and the maximum points for each stage was 10. Also, each candidate will be assigned different assessment content according to their profession. They can quit early or complete all of them. The examiner will give scores based on their performance in each level. Only candidates who have passed with a score of 85 points or above are eligible to participate in the ring battle. A victory in the ring battle will earn the candidate 10 extra points, with a maximum of 150 points. The competition will determine the top scorer in this year's college entrance examination. In the comprehensive ability assessment and the ring battle, they can use any equipment, but they are not allowed to use any special item. Also, any violators will be disqualified from the assessment, and that's all for the rules of this assessment. The expressions of all the candidates became extremely solemn as they queue up into groups of 10 and enter the assessment room. The comprehensive ability assessment was about to start. As soon as Lin Yuan was done, the 10 towering stone pillars standing on the bluestone square each opened a portal. All the candidates entered the stone pillar one by one. When it was Ye Lin's turn, he took a step forward and appeared in a closed all-metal room with numerous electric sparks sweeping across him. The time of the main exams had finally come, and it was up to him to write his fate how he chooses. The chief examiner, Lin Yuan, stood quietly on the bluestone square, looking at the 10 stone pillars. Behind him stood several middle-aged men with powerful auras. They were all deputy examiners of this year's college entrance exams. Among them was a woman in a blue long dress. Although she was old, the woman was well-maintained, with a slender figure and a short hair which gently fluttered in the wind. Her name was Su Changxin, and she was a supervisor from Daxia College. She walked over to Lin Yuan's side and apologized for being late. Lin Yuan smiled slightly, looked at the woman with respect, and replied that there was no need. She was just in time actually. Su Changxin asked if there has been any outstanding candidates so far. Lin Yuan replied that there's been a few, especially a student named Ye Lin who was already level 18. Lin Yuan pulled Ye Lin's info and showed it to Su Changxin. She was quite impressed with Ye Lin's level, and stated that he was already qualified to be enrolled into Daxia College. However, when she saw Ye Lin's profession, she couldn't help but frown. It was quite a shame. At level 18, even if the profession level was only A class, she could still be flexible with the conditions and allow the candidate to enter Daxia College. But that's not the case when it comes to Forbidden Spellmasters. Although it's an SSS level profession, everyone knows that a Forbidden Spellmaster will not live past the age of 25. Lin Yuan agrees with Su Changxin. It's indeed a shame. If Ye Lin wasn't a Forbidden Spellmaster, a real dragon would have appeared in Qingcheng. Just as the two were discussing Ye Lin's score, a mechanized voice announced that the candidate Ye Lin was done with the first stage of the comprehensive ability assessment. His level assessment was a full score. The second stage of the comprehensive ability assessment was the three-dimensional attribute assessment, and candidate Ye Lin was instructed to place his hand on the test ball. When he did, his strength was displayed as 480, agility of 270, and mental spirit of 1199. An examiner couldn't help but complain. He couldn't comprehend how a forbidden spellcaster had a strength of 480. He then wondered if Ye Lin had an equipment that increases his strength. And if he did, why would he need that much strength as a forbidden spellcaster? Did he want to brawl with other candidates? Another agreed that 480 points of strength was indeed weird because it already exceeds a lot of warrior class professions. Anyway, they'll know when Ye Lin reaches the third stage because he will have to use his attacks on that stage. The third stage of the comprehensive ability assessment was an attack assessment, and candidates were instructed to use their strongest attack skill they had. When Ye Lin heard this, his first reaction was to sacrifice all his organs to summon the world-destroying Chaos Thunder. But he knew that that godly performance was too shocking and would definitely expose himself. Besides, it was just a high-level exam, so it shouldn't be so exaggerated. But the power shouldn't be too small either, because he wanted to be enrolled into Dasha College with full marks in every stage. After thinking about it, Ye Lin made a decision and sacrificed his tonsils to summon the most ordinary thunder. A bolt of lightning struck, and the dummies were blown into pieces. This was already his least powerful forbidden spell, yet the dummies had been destroyed. He wondered if they were just too fragile. Meanwhile, back at the Bluestone Square, all the examiners were genuinely stunned to see the wrecked dummies which were capable of withstanding any attack from job changers below level 25. Ye Lin was just level 18, yet the dummies exploded from one hit just like that. It's obvious at this point that Ye Lin used a forbidden spell, and since forbidden spells were known to be powerful, it made sense that the dummies would be wrecked. Lin Yuan couldn't help widening his eyes. He believed Ye Lin was being too reckless with his life just to cast a forbidden spell in his final exams. Nonetheless, his performance deserves the full points. After he passed the third stage, the next 4 stages were assessments on agility, explosive power, sustained damage output, and escapability. But none of these stages could stop Ye Lin at all. Under the astonished gazes of the examiners, Ye Lin quickly passed all the stages with full marks. Lin Yuan continued to watch Ye Lin's performance with a regrettable expression. He was truly baffled that Ye Lin was still using forbidden spells like they were nothing. At this point, it will be a miracle if he even lives up to 20 years old. An examiner asked him if he wants to raise the difficulty level of the final stage for Ye Lin. Lin Yuan wanted Su Chengxin's opinion on whether Dasha College will accept Ye Lin if he could get all full marks after increasing the difficulty. If Su Chengxin agrees, then there will be no problem increasing the difficulty. Lin Yuan was even curious to see where Ye Lin's limit was, because he seems to be able to handle the exams with ease so far. However, Su Chengxin was very cutthroat. She apologized to Lin Yuan, but she's not on board with that assessment when it comes to Ye Lin. From her perspective, Luo Jun, Wang Zhengguang, Zhu Ganini, and Ji Lingyu were more qualified to enter Dasha College. Her reason was simple: a forbidden spellcaster's strength is gained in exchange for his life, so Dasha College will just be wasting resources on him. Lin Yuan sighed in agreement. It was truly a shame. After passing the last level, Ye Lin came out from the comprehensive ability assessment chamber to find other candidates doing the same. The Bluestone Square was bustling with students who were so excited that they shared their test results with their friends. Ji Lingyu, excited to have score 96 points, couldn't wait to share the news when he spotted Ye Lin. According to this results, as long as he win 3 more matches in the ring, he was sure to enter Dasha College. Ye Lin, on the other hand, wasn't impressed. He asked why Ji Lingyu didn't get full marks. After all, he was already level 15, so the difficulty shouldn't be a problem. Ji Lingyu nervously scratched the back of his head and explained that he lost points in the actual combat assessment. His level had increased too quickly and he couldn't adapt for a while. As everyone was chatting among themselves, Lin Yuan announced the results of the comprehensive ability assessment. The first place was Ye Lin with 100 points. The second place was Zhu Ganini, also with 100 points. The third place was Luo Jun with 98 points. The fourth place was Ji Lingyu with 96 points. And the fifth place was Wang Zhengguang with 95 points. After announcing the test results for the top 5, Lin Yuan told the candidates with scores below 85 to leave the examination room in an orderly manner under the guidance of the invigilators. Candidates with scores of 85 and above can also choose to leave, but leaving the examination room will be regarded as giving up on the ring competition. As soon as Lin Yuan was done, Zhu Ganini, with a look of defiance, asked why she was ranked behind Ye Lin when they both got full marks. Although she hated not being able to surpass Ye Lin, being ranked below him was unacceptable. As soon as Zhu Ganini spoke up, it instantly aroused the doubts of many candidates. The girls even thought it was discrimination against women. It was unfair and a clear oppression against women. If Lin Yuan can't give a reasonable explanation, they will appeal against this injustice. Facing the excited emotions of the examinees, Lin Yuan's expression did not show any trace of worry. He just played the passing videos of Zhu Ganini and Ye Lin respectively and told the crowd to watch them carefully. It was the last stage of the comprehensive ability assessment where candidates were supposed to fight against a level 25 demonic flame wolf. Although Zhuge Nini's level of skill and adaptability was top of the line, she struggled a lot before killing the monster. But when it came to Ye Lin, he killed the level 25 demonic flame wolf using just one skill, and the monster died under a second. Seeing this, everyone suddenly understood why Zhuge Nini was in second place even though they both got full marks. Lin Yuan turned towards the crowd and asked if there was any more objections about the final test result. The Bluestone Square became silent with no one daring to speak, not even Zhuge Nini. She couldn't argue after seeing the video. Lin Yuan told the crowd that the ring battle would begin half an hour from now, so they should rest and prepare for the tournament. The results of the comprehensive ability assessment were soon announced to the outside world. And the moment Principal Gao and his fellow principals saw the results, they were surprised that Ye Lin and Zhuge Nini got full marks. The other principals began to congratulate Principal Gao. His Qingcheng Academy was striking it big this year. What's even more shocking was Ji Lingyu, who scored 96 points and got 4th place. He was certainly a dark horse. At this point, Principal Gao couldn't contain his excitement and laughed in sheer delight. With 3 students being in the top 5, Qingcheng Academy would surely become a popular school for admission next year. Anyway, just as Principal Gao was basking in all the praise, Principal Su from Yutsai Academy reminded him not to get too excited this early in the exams. After all, the ring tournament, which was the real highlight of the exams, would start in half an hour. Principal Gao wasn't the least bit concerned when he heard this. His students had been the best since the exam started, so securing first place in the ring tournament wasn't a stretch. Or did Principal Su seriously believe that Luo Jun could deal with a level 18 Forbidden Spellcaster? Principal Su simply replied that since nothing was certain, anything was possible. Back at the Bluestone Square, Ye Lin unexpectedly ran into Zhuge Nini. The encounter was extremely brief, but before Zhuge Nini walked away, she informed Ye Lin that she won't lose to him in the ring tournament. Ye Lin said nothing, but inwardly, he wondered what was wrong with her now. Half an hour passed, and all the qualified candidates gathered at the Bluestone Square. Lin Yuan explained the rules of the tournament, which was pretty simple. It will be held based on a lottery format, and winning a match earns a candidate 10 points. Then he or she would be promoted to the next round. Before the lottery starts, there are a total of 104 candidates. So the sum between 2 candidates' serial numbers, which tallies to 104, will be fighting against each other. By some coincidence, Ye Lin drew the number 18 and was matched up against a female candidate named Bei Bei Bei, who was number 86. Ji Lingyu was relieved to know he wouldn't face Ye Lin anytime soon. He was number 24, and as long as he doesn't run into Zhuge Nini or Luo Jun in the early stages, his level would be enough for him to secure a good result. Soon, it was Ye Lin's turn to face his opponent. Ji Lingyu wished him the best of luck as he walks off. As the two face off in the arena, their profession and levels were displayed for each to see. Bei 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 was a level 10 water mage, and Ye Lin was a level 18 forbidden curse master. Before Lin Yuan announced the beginning of the battle, Ye Lin advised Bei 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 to surrender. But of course, she didn't listen. She told Ye Lin that she won't surrender. Even though he was stronger than her, she won't be looked down upon. Bei Bei Bei's expression was very stubborn, and her palm-sized face was full of determination. Ye Lin just smiled and commended her for her bravery. After all, it's not easy for anyone to get a score of more than 85 in the comprehensive ability assessment. However, this was a fight she cannot win. Ye Lin sacrificed his wisdom tooth and summoned the chaos thunder. His body got lifted in the air the moment he raised his hand in the sky. Suddenly, several surge of thunderclouds gathered together, and countless dazzling silver-white lightning arcs shuttled through the clouds like spirit snakes. With a loud boom, a violent thunder dragon as thick as a large python swooped in from the clouds and hovered over Ye Lin like a protective guardian. At this moment, Ye Lin was like a god who controlled thunder. This horrifying scene not only caused the rest of the candidates watching to break out in a cold sweat, but left them dumbfounded. After all, casting forbidden spells in the final exams arena was outrageous and unheard of. Seeing that Ye Lin had no intention of stopping, the invigilator overseeing the match intervened. In horror, he warned Ye Lin that killing anyone inside the tournament was strictly prohibited. If he still goes through with it, he would be disqualified from the final exams. Ye Lin didn't wish to kill Bei Bei Bei, but only wished to make her surrender. And about the issue with him casting forbidden spells, it's because he really didn't know any other spells except forbidden ones. Under this terrifying pressure, Bei 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 was so scared that her legs went weak, and she slammed to the floor with a thump. The next second, she burst into tears, crying like a child. The other candidates, especially the guys, were outraged. They can't believe Ye Lin would go as far as make such a beautiful lady cry out of fear like that. He was simply an animal. Ye Lin ignored them and asked a sobbing Bei if she'd surrendered. In the end, she surrendered and was helped off the stage by an invigilator. The competition ended with Ye Lin as the victor. He made his way to the ground and was awarded 10 points for winning the first round. Ye Lin gave a helpless look. He also didn't expect Bei to have such a poor psychological endurance that she would be scared to tears. It seems he just have to be mindful in the upcoming rounds. Soon, the battle in the ring competition was in full swing. A thick book appeared in Juganini's hand, which was obviously some extremely powerful equipment. As the pages kept flipping, terrifyingly hot flames roared up and forced her opponent to retreat. Each of her skills was released with extreme precision, leaving no room for her opponent to operate. Soon Juganini defeated her opponent and won the first round. Luo Jun from Yutsai Academy held a black spear with a lifelike shadow dragon wrapped around the spear. Every time the spear was swung, the sound of a dragon's roar echoed throughout the arena. With dark, ominous eyes, he kept teasing his opponent before winning the matchup. Ji Lingyu was wielding a long sword, and with his current level facing a level 8 opponent, he felt no pressure at all. So after a few sword strikes, he made the opponent surrender on the spot. With an SSS level Rainbow Blade profession, Wang Zhengguang from Experimental Academy was as fast as a ghost and could easily defeat his opponent in a flash. After a 10-minute break, the second round of the competition officially began. In this round, Ye Lin's opponent was a sword cultivator with several long swords on his back. The guy, Chen Chengqin, had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, a slender figure, and a weird temperament. But the moment he saw Ye Lin as his opponent, his expression changed slightly. He then narrowed his eyes and spoke softly as if muttering to himself. Chen Chengqin believed it might be a little tricky facing Ye Lin, but he was confident he could win. The moment he drew out a long sword from his back, Ye Lin's expression suddenly became serious. He didn't want to underestimate his opponent because the professions of job changers were all kinds of strange, and so was their skills. Their apparent level also do not represent their true combat prowess. Anyway, the way Chen Chengqin looked so confident, he must have extraordinary means. The moment the invigilator began the match, Chen Chengqin announced that he'd surrendered. He turned around, coolly put the sword back into his scabbard, and then walked off the stage. Ye Lin was stunned for a moment before asking Chen Chengqin about what he said just moments ago. Didn't he say he was confident that he could win? Yes, he did say that. However, Ye Lin misunderstood him when he said that. He's confident he will win against him, but not today and definitely not now. The invigilator had a strange look on his face when he announced Ye Lin's victory for the second time. This was the first time he'd encountered the easiest job as an invigilator. While his colleagues had to stay alert and pay attention to the candidate's combat situation at all times to prevent their lives from being in danger, he basically had nothing to do except reciting the rules. The crowd was stunned to see Ye Lin win again without fighting. Although the way Ye Lin's opponents surrendered might seem a bit too much, it was understandable. Like who would risk their own life just to defeat a short-lived Forbidden Spellcaster? Soon it was time for the third round. In light of the lessons learned from the previous two predecessors, it seems the next candidate had already made up his mind the moment he drew Ye Lin. Since he had no desire to fight against such a monster, he immediately surrendered. Recalling the scene in the first round, the guy knew it would be better for him to give up. At this point, Ye Lin was frustrated for not being able to do a damn thing. He had advanced to the fourth round without lifting a finger, and his score had also reached an astonishing 130 points. The dumbfounded crowd began to lose interest and decided to watch other test takers. Ye Lin's matchups were a total rip-off. He just used a forbidden spell in the first round, yet he had won 3 rounds in a row. Some even believed Ye Lin's final test was too easy, and wondered if he would get a perfect score without doing anything. The scene shifted to the match between Luo Jun and Wang Zhengguang, both of SSS level profession. Luo Jun had a level 14 Shadow Dragon Spear, and Wang Zhengguang had a level 13 Rainbow Blade. The moment the fight began, Wang Zhengguang, wielding 2 daggers, disappeared on the stage like a ghost. His speed and movements were that of an assassin, but Luo Jun's sharp eyes were able to easily keep up with his movements. He waved the black spear in his hand, which clashed with Wang Zhengguang's daggers with a reverberating clang. Then what soon followed was Wang Zhengguang's fast movements, the occasional dazzling sparks of their weapons, and the clanging sound of metal clashing repeatedly. Wang Zhengguang warned Luo Jun to prepare himself. He was going to be added to the list in the loser bracket, but Luo Jun scoffed at the absurdity. To him, Wang Zhengguang didn't have the strength to defeat him. The crowd gathered were terrified seeing the way the 2 SSS-level professionals were fighting each other. Luo Jun had no issue keeping up with Wang Zhengguang's movements, but the crowd couldn't see anything. It was obvious that none of them would have been able to last a second if they were facing either of them. although they were both job changers, they can clearly see that those two were on a completely different level. Among the examiners captivated by this duel were the chief examiner and the supervisor of Daxia College. Lin Yuan asked Su Chengxin who she believes would win the duel. Without hesitation, Su Chengxin chose Luo Jun. She explained that although it might seem like Luo Jun was being suppressed, his defenses hadn't been breached even though Wang Zhengguang went all out from the start. Once Wang Zhengguang's stamina decreases, Luo Jun would obviously launch a counterattack. Sure enough, shortly after Su Chengxin expressed her judgment, the situation in the arena began to change. Maintaining high-speed movement for a long time was a considerable drain on Wang Zhengguang's stamina, and he couldn't help but slow down a little. And just as his speed slowed down, Luo Jun suddenly pounced on him like a long dormant tiger. Clenching his black spear tightly, Luo Jun leaped high in the air and swung directly down towards Wang Zhengguang. Wang Zhengguang had less than no time to dodge and could only raise his daggers to block. He was knocked down on his back. A loud cracking sound was heard as Luo Jun's black spear slashed Wang Zhengguang's chest after shattering the daggers. The match ended with a shrill scream from Wang Zhengguang. Meanwhile, Ye Lin's opponent in the 5th round also surrendered, leaving him quite bored with the whole tournament. At this point, it seems that only Zhuge Nini or Luo Jun would be willing to face him. But it was in this moment that Ye Lin saw something that immediately piqued his interest. It was a matchup between Zhuge Nini and Ji Lingyu. On the stage, Zhuge Nini was in the air, and as she stared at Ji Lingyu with a cold look, she wanted to know just what Ye Lin had given him to make him obey him so blindly. Zhuge Nini truly couldn't understand it. Ji Lingyu simply warned Zhuge Nini that she would regret it when she finally realized who Ye Lin really was. Zhuge Nini couldn't hide the obvious disdain of Ji Lingyu's admiration for Ye Lin. In her opinion, Ji Lingyu was just a fool who had been deceived by Ye Lin. She directly released her phoenix exploding flames the moment the Invigilator announced the start of the match. The book in her hand lit up as countless fireballs were hurled towards Ji Lingyu. Beads of sweat appeared on Ji Lingyu's face when he realized Zhuge Nini's elemental spells were instant casts. Ji Lingyu's figure flashed like a phantom as he leaped high in the air to dodge the fireballs. The fireballs exploded beneath him with a deafening bang. Since his opponent was a long-range attacker, he needed to avoid getting hit at all costs and find a way to get close. In the air, the book kept flipping as Zhuge Nini calmly raised her hand at Ji Lingyu. Suddenly, all the exploded flames merged into a massive sea of flames underneath Ji Lingyu and was directed towards him. Facing this indiscriminate attack, Ji Lingyu's eyes narrowed. He knew that this attack was unavoidable and he had to meet it head-on. He took a deep breath, grasped his sword tightly and raised it in the air. Using the slash sword skill, his sword energy flashed with a cold light as he cleaved through the incoming sea of flames. The violent flames was extinguished seconds after, forming a cloud of steam. Ji Lingyu was surrounded by the thick steam, panting heavily. It seems he was at his limit, yet he didn't want to surrender. He was determined to continue with the duel. Seeing this, Zhuge Nini called him an idiot. If Ji Lingyu wasn't going to surrender, then she wasn't going to hold back either. The book in Zhuge Nini's hand suddenly lit up in flames. And the moment she cast her next elemental spell, the red surging flame, an insurmountable wall of flames was summoned. The air in the arena suddenly became scorching hot. Ji Lingyu felt a horrible heat wave rushing towards him, almost suffocating him. Every time he took a breath, his nose felt like it was being burned. Ji Lingyu looked up and saw that Zhuge Nini was surrounded by flames. She then asked Ji Lingyu if he wants to surrender, but the fool still didn't want to. He even gave a subtle threat to which Zhuge Nini just brushed off as Ji Lingyu being overconfident. Ji Lingyu was clearly no match for Zhuge Nini, and everyone knows it at this point except him apparently. Su Chengxin calmly comments that Ji Lingyu was going to lose, but Lin Yuan was more concerned about his well-being. He instructed the medics to intervene when he saw that Ji Lingyu had no intention of backing down. Ji Lingyu's figure seemed extremely small as the massive flames engulfed him. The moment the flame touched his skin, he felt a sharp pain spread throughout his body, as if countless flaming blades were cutting his flesh. His clothes were ignited in an instant and turned into ashes, revealing his skin that was scorched by the flames. Yet he did not retreat. A charred figure rushed out from the massive flames, and in front of Zhuge Nini's astonished gaze, he stabbed at her with a sword. Zhuge Nini never expected that Ji Lingyu would continue to attack her despite his condition. However, she reacted quickly and dodged the attack. But Ji Lingyu's sword still nicked her left arm. Seeing Zhuge Nini's injury, Ji Lingyu sneered. At this time, he had been burned into a charred figure by the flames, but his left eye was still bright. He warned Zhuge Nini not to provoke him, because his boss was someone he respected the most besides his dad. If she dares to talk shit about his boss again, she shouldn't blame him for being ruthless. Ye Lin's injuries were severe, and he fainted the moment he was done with his threat. Ye Lin rushed onto the stage without hesitation and used the healing ability of the Yin-Yang twin bracelet to treat Ye Lin. Lin Yuan instructed the medics to hurry before it's too late. Looking at Ye Lin's gloomy face, Zhuge Nini, a bit shaken by the scene, told him that she didn't know Ye Lin would go this far. Ye Lin replied coldly that it wasn't her fault. The medics came with a stretcher and carried Ye Lin away. Before leaving, Ye Lin praised him for doing well in the tournament. Lin Yuan announced to everyone that Ye Lin was not in any life-threatening danger, but there are massive burns on his body that requires immediate treatment at the hospital. Anyway, the tournament was now in the semifinals. Zhuge Nini was matched up against Lin Linglin, while Ye Lin was matched up against Luo Jun. Lin Yuan was quick to add that this year's top scorer will be one of these four candidates. Back outside, a fellow principal questioned Principal Su whether he believes Luo Jun would win against Ye Lin. Principal Su replied that Luo Jun was a genius from Yutsai Academy, so he had full confidence in him to win. Another added that Yutsai Academy might get another top scorer this year. Principal Gao disagreed. He believes there's no way Luo Jun can win against Ye Lin, a level 18 Forbidden Spellcaster. But Principal Su simply pointed out that since it was just a tournament, Ye Lin won't really use forbidden spells continuously without disregarding his own life. Hearing this, Principal Gao pointed out that 2 of the 4 finalists were from Qingchang Academy, so Principal Su shouldn't get ahead of himself. And besides, a single spell would be enough to deal with Luo Jun. Principal Su wasn't the least bit concerned when he heard this. They will soon see who gets the last laugh. The two finally stopped arguing when someone announced that the match was starting.